we'll talk about some of those things.
Has anybody brought up anything about when they're supposed to announce Engage next year and where?
Oh, good question. Well, it's on recording, so I don't know. Yes?
It's been brought up multiple times, yes.
Okay. Got my answer.
We absolutely understand it because John asked. He's trying to plan the next conference, right? He's probably safe doing it in October, but because we've never done one then. But it's time to excuse my French. Shit or get off the bus.
So you can tell us because Eric can edit the video. So
yeah.
But if you're told, you have to be shocked.
You can't just pretend?
There's nothing I say that I would be embarrassed to have recorded people at Claris to watch. And if anything I say that's harsh, they deserve to hear it. So I'm not worried about that.
Okay. This is like announcement time. Does anybody have any announcements they'd like to give? I think Tony might have had one. Tony on mute. You're on mute, Tony, if you wanted to give an announcement. Well, anyway, I think he's going to be on Richard Carlton next week. Richard Carlton's show, FM Training TV. Go over there and take a look and look out for his presentation. He's going to, I think, do something on the Hope system. All right. And then, so anyway, as some of these announcements are going to sound familiar, but I'm going to say again, there's not going to be an Engage 26, so this is about it. Got a whole lot of people showing up from Claris and a lot of people in the community. If you check out the website, it's fullaccess.us, you can see we've got like at least 68 attendees now, and they're just actually multiple registering per day now. So yes, that's going to be, if you don't know already, August 6th through 10th. Yes, it's going to be your Engage Fix for 26. It's a 5-day, 4-night event, meals and rooms included. So if you look at the price out over there, it's a pretty good price. But the price is actually going up tomorrow. So you would actually have to register today. And tomorrow it's going to go up by $300, I think. But we do have a discount code for you. I can put that in the chat after I'm done giving these announcements if you need that. I think that's like $200 off, and that's good till July 26th. And I think we might give a FM Disc a special discount tomorrow too, just to give them a break. And then you can go to FM Disc if you want to see that. What else we got? So yeah, it's amenities, all kinds of things, one low price for everything. So it's not like you're paying for the conference and paying for your room and paying for your food. It's all covered. And if you can't get to full access, which is like the number one best value for a developer conference, you could go to read-only access, which is really DIGFM's hybrid conference. Really, so I think from 3 to 6 p.m. every day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you would be able to attend those sessions in the afternoon. So we're going to actually have, I think, 5 meetings in August. So it's going to be those 4, plus maybe we'll do a recap that week on the second Thursday of August. What else? Yeah, so that's going to cover about 20% of the sessions that are going to be available there at full access. I'd recommend going. We're going to celebrate. How many years has it been for Clay? 30? I can't remember.
It's been 40.
40.
We just hit 40 this year. Yeah, we actually celebrated that at our last all hands. So.
Yeah, so I think this is your chance. I mean, this is the developers' chance to go celebrate with them. Like I don't know how many developers showed up to that party with Apple and Claris, but yeah, this is our chance for developers to show up and congratulate them for those 40 years and thank them for all that. What else do we have going on? Oh, well, anyway, some of the presentations that we'll be having both at Full Access and on Dig FM will be Darren Terry. He's going to be reshaping the dependency tree. That's a 2-part sequel to his cult classic we talk about every once in a while on this meetup. Christian Schmitz, he's going to feed you low-code monkeys with some free goodies before losing a live workshop. So we'll be doing both of those That'll be fun, I think. And then David Simpson, he's going to be doing 2 under the hood sessions with Claris engineers. At the very least, Clay. We don't know who the other engineers are yet, but yes, uh, he's going to be doing that. And that's actually he was asking questions about that earlier about what can he ask about what's going to be available to talk about. And he does his homework, so those are good sessions to show up to. And Todd Geist will be he's going to be doing some of the 2 sessions on our AI track and so on. But anyway, if you only attend online, you're not going to get all the other presentations and delightful dining fun activities that so a few people have planned. And yeah, and then being able to meet with people in person, some of our heroes, that's great.
You could have
Also,
mentioned my sessions.
oh, you're one of our heroes. This Ron, who's right here. He's the guy. If go to the website. If you're not even going to register, just go to the website, and that's all Ron and his Alex. They set up this amazing conference website. If I wanted to start up conferences and I would go to Ron, right? I'd say, hey, I need to set up a conference. I need something to track all my attendance and the sessions and the registrations, and maybe I want to work that into WordPress. Ron is the guy. Okay. Uh, so yeah, I would go check. Oh, and they've even got like a new app. So it's not FileMaker Go, but it's in many ways it better because he's got it. I think he's going to have it for Android. Is that right?
Yeah, it's cross-platform, built in React, and it uses all FileMaker backend data. So it facilitates a connection to the FileMaker database and pulls it into a fully mobile, like native mobile app that's cross-platform for both iPhone and Android
And will you
devices.
be doing a
And
presentation that shows people a little bit like how to get started doing things like that?
yeah, my associate Alex will be. He's been kind of the brains behind that part of the project, and he's going to be doing a session on that as well to kind of talk about how we put all that together. So
Yes. So I highly recommend his sessions on those things. It's probably at this point I think he's the absolute expert of hooking up WordPress and FileMaker. It's a beauty to behold. So yes, we do have. I don't know if he's attending right now, but we do have a couple students. I think we're going to be who've actually kind of earned there's a little bit of a scholarship, so they're actually going to be attending for free. One of those, at least I think 2 of the students are actually AI graduates, like they've graduated in some sort of AI degree. So it might be fun to pick their brains and see what they're teaching in universities about AI. It's kind of hard, right, to have a degree in something that keeps changing so quickly. So you gotta wonder how they handle that. Um, and the other thing we got going on at Full Access 26 is we're trying to page all plugin programmers. We've got a plugin plus programmers powwow. It's on the plate. You can see down there below the tractor. That's really clay below a real tractor. Um, but those 2 intruders there are plugin developers. Those guys have been edited by AI. That is who's that? Christian and Jesse, probably some of our more prominent plugin developers. So there was a request to see if they could do like a plugin power, a meetup for plugin developers. So anybody who's involved in plugin development, I would recommend this. Christian himself requested this, and you don't want to like leave them in charge of the whole thing, otherwise they're going to hog clay all to himself. So if you are into plugin development, I recommend showing up, and this is for you. Um, so any case, I think that's it. Oh wait, and speaking of plugin development, you're into plugin development now, right, Matt?
Anybody who has access to Claude or Codex can be into plugin development.
All right. Well, you're going to tell us all about that right about now. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing.
So you want me to share now?
Yeah, go ahead. You're good to go.
All right. Let's see here. Share desktop 1. I think there we go. Oh, nice. It automatically. I didn't know Zoom remembered to put things where you had them before. All right. Is my screen showing?
It is.
It is. Okay. and I've been told that it doesn't zoom. So I like to use Zoom, but I won't be able to use it. So I'll have to just make things big by using whatever I have available. So I'm going to assume in this meeting that most everybody has probably at some point started using something agentic, and there's multiple different ways to use agents in order to actually get results that you want. We probably all know that FileMaker is in the process of becoming more agentic. But when I got into using agents, which was probably it was like April, May of 2025, and then most of us know that the big transition point happened in November, December of 25, at the end of 25, and then in 26, by the time January and February hit, you really didn't need to even know how to code if you wanted resulting code, which has turned us into a different type of situation where because of agents now, we're managing more of what the result of code is, and that comes in the flavor of managing context windows, managing infrastructure, managing how a result actually ends up happening. So in February, I was no longer interested in writing FileMaker scripts. I literally didn't. So I'm going to show you the end result first of where I'm at with this process. And then if you want, I will explain any type of questions about anything about what I've done, how it started, but I know that you probably want to see what is possible. So the website is Agentic FM. Just the super quick background is that it started open source because I was able to work with agents in order to get a result. I knew what I wanted to do based on what Claris FileMaker currently provides and how I was able to get stuff out of it. There is a tool on GitHub called FMXML Export Exploder, which is a mouthful and a little bit too much. But I knew that FileMaker had the intelligence or the knowledge about a solution, and I needed to be able to get access to that and feed it to an agent. So I started the open source. But before we go through that, and if you haven't downloaded it or installed it, I'll show you how you can use the open source portion versus the plugin, but I'll show you where I'm at currently with the plugin by switching to FileMaker. And I've got a solution. We'll just go with the invoice solution. This is just a FileMaker solution. I'll hide that. So what I did is I used an agent. I'll be the first to admit I have no business knowing anything about C. I know logic, I know syntax, I know architecture, and I know how to structure things. Combined with agentic programming, it is your imagination that contributes the end result that you want. So this little plugin that I created is simply a window that comes up in FileMaker that embeds an agent. So most people are probably used to using a desktop app, which we will take a look at. You're probably using either Claude Desktop or you're using Codex, which they've just recently renamed to ChatGPT Codex for some reason, because they just released Sol 5.6 today. We'll take a look at this, what I call an external agent. So what we have on window on the screen, a external agent is something that looks from the outside into FileMaker. That's how I have it defined within my project. An internal agent, as I hide that window, is something like a plugin that is directly built within FileMaker. Now, if you don't already know, there's multiple ways that you can interact with an LLM. The way that you can get to this this thing that uses transformers in order to look at all these different vectors of what predicts the next token. The first way is with the native tool that's provided by the providers, or a harness that will actually directly plug into those tools. The other way is through an API. And then the last way that you can interact with an agent, as far as I'm aware, is local. And that's when you are running but you need a lot of RAM in order to get something that's equivalent. That's why all these data centers have the graphics cards, etc. So in this scenario, if I just bring up a window, and I've got ScriptMaker, something that I'm used to. Now, there is one thing that I've put into this that you will not normally see in Claris, and it's this little icon right there. There's another plugin made by a gentleman out of Canada. It's called Genie, and he's actually putting some icons here. You can see that Christian put some icons here, really because of the way that Apple provides their APIs. Putting something into any application's window is not that difficult because it uses this thing called accessibility in order to be able to get things built in. But there is an option that I have not previously released in the plugin, which allows you to just toggle this one window. So this one window is what I consider an internal agent, and this internal agent has a harness is whatever anybody has programmed into it with regards to the knowledge and understanding about the environment of what it is supposed to do. So I'm one plugin developer now. There are other plugin developers, and from what I know, Claris will be developing their own plugin, probably because it's a little bit of a risk to go in and directly muck with the FileMaker environment because you really don't want things to break. But they have their own API, which is the plugin API, available to all of us as a developer, in order to wire up into. If you have questions and you want to understand what those different aspects are when we get to questions, I can tell you about that. One of the biggest things is called the system prompt. So the system prompt to a harness is whatever you are telling a graphics card, which knows nothing. It knows nothing other than I have all of these vectors loaded into my memory space, and I can tell you whatever the next little token is going to be after all I break up your sentence into all these little tokens. That system prompt combined with the tools is what makes it possible to do things. So I'm going to select this quick find clients. I know nothing about it. I'll pretend that I don't. We won't go into all of the things about models, temperatures. You probably already know about effort. I'm going to choose Composer 2 here from Cursor. Cursor is providing their own model. So unlike ChatGPT from OpenAI and Anthropic has Claude, this is a really fast model. It's also very cheap. And I'm just going to put in a very simple prompt that says, tell me what this script does. And it's going to go off, and I chose this one because they're pretty fast in terms of their response. And responses are always based on the load, the capacity, etc., what's going on. So if I knew nothing about this particular solution, and what I've just stated in terms of the harness is what you put into the environment that understands what you're trying to convey. So what I did is I took all of my knowledge about FileMaker and I put it into what is my harness, Agentic FM, thinking, okay, it's going to be used for multiple things. One thing is I want to learn what currently exists. Another thing is I want to modify or make better what exists. And that applies to not just scripts, but other areas of FileMaker. So here you can see what it came up with is it's already got these little hyperlinks, which are pretty nice if you want to look at them. So that right there was what's called a deep link. So what I did is in the plugin, when I asked about this script, when this script, which down at the very bottom here this is the status bar of Agentic FM, it understands what the current state of FileMaker's environment is. So if I close this, you'll see that down there at the bottom it went away, because what I'm looking at is I'm looking at when you have the script workspace open, and if you do, I make the assumption that that's the script that you're wanting to work with. You can disable that by simply just clicking right here, and that means that when I click here, that will not get sent to the LLM. But it does tell me that I'm looking at the quick find, and it has 45 steps. It's all very easy to read. It's done through accessibility. If I was working with Claris and advising them, there's a number of things that you could do that go beyond accessibility, and I'm probably sure they're going to do that. But what's nice is when an LLM hands things back, you can do your own tooling. So what I did is I wrapped my own idea of tooling around what I think an agent should do for somebody who's trying to learn this script. One of those things is called deep links, which you can see right here. This script references a value of admin search global. So when I click on this link, what it does is it invokes open quickly in order to take advantage of it to take me right to that particular field. So that I can search, I can click on it and then go edit my settings. Ideally and ultimately, Claris exposes to agents all of these settings so that you don't even have to go down to the level of what I call dialogue hell, which is basically Claris is sort of trapped because a long time ago, back when it was created, they've got all these old metaphors that don't apply to an agent, but they still exist, and they're good for us, but what have you. You can also see that you can select on lines. So this is going to tell me the headers at line 1 through 5. If I click on this 8, it will highlight line 8, telling me that it's doing error capture. Here you can actually see some exposed some code. This would be a bug that I have in the plugin right here, where this is supposed to be obscured, this particular wrapping right here, which would be, you can see right there, that description even is my definition of what would be a tool call. So you already know, and you've probably heard about tool calls, and all tool callers are within a harness like Codex or Claude. They're literally looking at the operating system, seeing the list of binary tools that you have available to you, or to it, and then running those, taking the output, and then putting it back into the environment. I'm doing the same thing. I made my own tool calls for FileMaker. So like one of the tool calls is, if you have a range of line numbers, when I click on that line number, I want you to then go select those lines and actually be able to do something. That then gets extended way beyond that point where you can actually do direct modifications. So the plugin, beyond the learning point of being able to click on this and having it show me the field, it can actually do the inserts and the deletions and the modifications. So in the plugin, there is a settings area up in the top where when you go to that, you can see this one area, and let me see if I can make this, I can make it larger, of agent behavior. So again, Agentic FM is just my vision of how we currently need to interact, or we currently can interact with the limitations that we have of the things that you would want an agent to be able to do. And you can see that we've got this never, ask, and always. And there's a little question mark. You can hover in front. It'll tell you what that is actually going to allow an agent to do. So remember, all of this is within the context of tool calls. Like, what type of tools do you give an agent for what it can do within FileMaker? And that's sort of what I've done. And I've just leveraged the SDK, which is provided through the plugin API that Claris releases for us as developers. And that includes script execution. So the agent can run a script, meaning it can essentially debug its own script. That's really cool. It can modify scripts, and that comes in multiple flavors. Within the plugin, one of the things that I've done, and one of the things that we all know, is that what we see right here is very simple, and it's straightforward, and it's logical. It's actually also very optimized, because in order to interact with this, when we get it onto the clipboard, it becomes much more verbose. So in the plugin, one of the things that I did is I intentionally took the approach that everything that the agent interacts with is simple, and everything that I do complex is on the plugin side. Meaning I'm not transferring any of the heavy XML to the agent, and I'm not getting any of the XML stuff back that's really, really heavy. So Agentic FM is highly optimized so that when you do a script modification, there's two ways that the plugin can actually do this. It can directly go to a line and then insert things after that line or delete things, Or it can do what I created, which was called a tool. It's a FileMaker tool called a patch. So internally, FM patch looks at this whole script, decides what it wants to change at different given line points, hands that instruction set back to the plugin. The plugin uses the XML that's on the clipboard and then patches it directly, and then can either do a wholesale swap or put the things in individually. So it's really pretty cool. And that is all within script modification. So you can see I have mine set to always, always, and always. Schema modification obviously lets us use SQL to directly alter the table. Tables. So it can create tables, it can create fields, it can edit fields, anything that SQL can do with the altering of the data. If you want to allow data modification, and that is the extension of where FileMaker stops with execute SQL, where it's just select, well, plugin APIs have the ability to do inserts, updates, and deletes. So if I turned on this to always, and I always allowed the agent to directly modify data, then it absolutely will modify that data. It can rewrite whole records, what have you. Target file switching, this is something that newer FileMaker users, they may be in one file, they switch to another file, and their original file was the context in which they started a prompt or interaction, and this actually just targets back to that same file so that it is the frontmost file. Inspector guidance, everything that is in this inspector is exposed to AI. So if I type in a prompt that I want to hide an object, it can go from this tab to this tab, and then directly to this area, etc. It can turn these on and off. It can do all of those switches, and that's all thanks to the API that Apple provides for all their applications, which is the Accessibility API. Content capture. This is a really pretty cool recent thing that I did. So models have an ability to use vision, and vision is basically being able to see what's on the screen. So I can prompt the AI to take a screenshot of this window. I can prompt it to say, take a screenshot of this script. It's much easier to have it read the script, but the content capture also applies to, you can tell an agent, I'm using another application, and via AppleScript, it can read that whatever data it wants by writing the AppleScript, executing it against that application, and then bring it back into FileMaker. That's the second half of content capture, and that one's actually not quite done yet. And then host automation is the word for AppleScript. So all of these agent behaviors are things that I put into the plugin based on me not wanting to do anything manually within FileMaker. Now, this comes down to the point of what is your level of comfort? You are either going to not want an AI to touch your script because it's holy and sacred, or on the path you get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm okay with you, go ahead, do and wipe whatever you want out of this environment. So that's where you see that I've got always set on my script execution. We have already done a request in here. Just like any other agent, it's told me everything about this script, but now I can actually say, what would you do differently, if I can get that. Yeah. And can you show me a diff? Now, if you don't already know, a diff is just the programming word for if this script was going to have changes to it, I would want to know that. So when I send this off, one of the other tools that I've built into the plugin, and the reason I built the plugin with the intention of keeping it as absolutely simple as possible. And we all know that Google, when that came about after we got used to Yahoo, Yahoo was a catalog, it had all these different links, but then Google came out and it was just a single bar. It was just one thing, meaning I always try to avoid what I call the button jungle, which is we're living in a world now that if you can't just simply describe what you want, then something's wrong. And I have some buttons in here, but not too many. Let's see. Reviewing how the script is called, whether error constrained, other, this particular, and it's still streaming in. I should have looked at the little button down there to know that it's still actually doing its processing. Hopefully it'll give me one of the features that I have built into the plugin, which is actually pretty nice as this streams in. And again, different models take different amounts of times depending on the thinking settings that you have, whether it's high, whether it's low, so forth. So the speed is not consistent across all providers or all models and at whatever settings you have. Proposed preview, maybe it's going to come up here. Oh, actually you can see it's because it's pre-rendering, you can actually see this is exposing what I'm actually hiding once it actually gets done. Those 3 little ticks with FM tool is how I've created in the plugin tools that will actually do things. And now that it's finally done, so that's really interesting that the scrolling was showing you the insight that I actually am hiding, which I'm not really hiding anything. But this show in web viewer, what I did is in the plugin, I knew that we already, an agent loves to create things, and it does it really fast, but what's cool is that we want to visually see things, and inside of FileMaker, the one thing that we have that will visually present anything is right there. It's a web viewer. And so anything that you could want an agent to actually show you, you can actually bake into the environment. So I have a little icon right here where I've got the preview. Let me double check and make sure. Right here. Yep. So all I did is I created a web viewer that has a given name that presumably nobody will ever use, AGFM, which is just the initials of the plugin. And it's pulling content out of a feature. It's a tool that I implemented called Preview, so that anything that I want the agent to actually show me, I am able to do that. Let's see, show in web viewer. Go ahead, save all. There we go. So what this is I embedded into the plugin a diff that will actually show me the script before and after. It's just a standard process of, here's what you would do to the script. I would remove 28 lines and I would add 12 lines. And this diff is only one of many different possible previews that you could do. Because you're working with an agent, you can ask an agent to show you anything. So down here at the bottom, I'll actually type in, could you show me the call chain of this script as a diagram? And there's multiple languages that will generate all kinds of different visualizations. I mean, agents are great at HTML. They can create SVGs. Viz.js, Mermaid is another popular thing. All kinds of different things. So if you think of the web viewer as a window into seeing any type of visualization, all you have to do is have a tool like a plugin that says, hey, agent, here's how you're going to behave. Here's your list of things that you can do. Here's how you're going to show things back to the user, and it's just going to be via a web viewer. So when this comes back, what we should get is a different show in web viewer that will actually show a mermaid diagram of this particular chart right here as it comes back. And what's really nice is all of this stuff, you are not limited by your imagination. Once you provide the tools to an agent in order to interact with an environment, it can do all the stuff for you. And so we will get to the point here where this is supposed to be a faster model, but you can see that it's got a show in web viewer button that came up again, and I can click that and it's now showing me what the call chain is of this particular script. So client's details calls quick find, client details secondary calls quick find, client list calls quick find.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Right now, all I see is there we go.
Ah.
There might be a delay in what's displaying for us.
Oh, is it showing it now?
I just now started showing that chart. Like
I saw it on my end right away, so it must not be everyone. Yeah.
Oh, that's weird.
It might be your latency or your network provider.
Oh, okay.
So, if we think of the web viewer as a visualization tool, and we tell the agent, "Hey, you can do anything." Literally, I've visualized like you can do 3D within here. You can do anything that a web viewer can show. The agent through a plugin can then show it for you for the purpose of understanding, which is absolutely cool. So in this plugin, there is a / commands, but there's really only 2 of them. But one of them is previews that you see right there. When I select on previews and then I hit that, it comes up and it uses the same web viewer in order to show me all of the things that I have previewed before. So at this point, I can look at I can go back to my mermaid chain and look at that one, or I can click my quick find and look at that one. Are you going to load there for me? Don't know why it's not doing that, but it's supposed to. It must be a bug that I've got right here that I need to actually fix. The click's not working for some reason here, but I'll address that one. There is the ability to export each of these. So this mermaid diagram, I can click this save, and it will, if it's not going to, it might be because I've got this in a web viewer. The web viewer can exist anywhere. Are you going to show me this? Nope, I guess it's not. It might be a bug in here that I'm working on my developer version here. And either way, you saw both of the previews, and that should work. Let's see if I've got that. Something must be intercepting my clicks. But ultimately, I may have an issue with it. Was working when I tried it, but I should be able to click this, and this would go back to the mermaid diagram. I could click this, and it should go back to the diff, allowing me to see all of the things that I've previewed before. I'll make sure and run that again. It also could be that you can put the web viewer clearly anywhere. I'll go ahead and duplicate that, and I'll select this one, and I'll make this AGFM 2, and just see if this one works as the regular one right here. All I did is...
Would these be analogous to artifacts?
For what an agent calls artifacts, or like your artifacts about stuff?
Just trying to get the terms right.
I don't know exactly whether artifacts actually applies to these or not. In your solution, you can clearly create a dedicated window, which is what I usually do. I can click an icon, bring up my window. My window has my dedicated AGFM web viewer, and then that just simply allows me to preview whatever I want, and then I can actually export those. But let's take a look at the modification that we have right here, because there's a bunch of other features in here. I'm probably looking at my off screen, seeing if I'm getting any lag because of all the things that I'm running right now. At this point, I'm going to give the agent the instructions to make the modifications. Please make the modifications to the script, just so we can see that it actually does it. And that will take a little bit of time, for however long the agent is going to take to chew on that. Meanwhile, I can go through some of the other things that I've put into the plugin. Now, the plugin, when you download it, it has to have a command line tool connected to it. And that's down in the bottom that you see right here, where you actually connect to one of the command line tools. I was selected here, so I got to make sure that I'm not. Don't know if those actually modified. I might have just messed it up. So the plugin, what it does is it gives back the script that you can copy and paste as XML. You can see that right there, but it's also, is it going to make it selections and do it? There we go.
The screen flashed.
Yeah. So it probably chose to do the wholesale swap out, which it looks like it did. And it got a couple of unknowns here. It's still thinking. It's telling me my manual steps. Anything that the plugin cannot do, it will actually tell you. Unfortunately, this is one of the downsides of using the accessibility is depending on how fast the model is, if you're not willing to sit there and wait and let it do its thing, if you go off and click somewhere else, the plugin attempts to bring FileMaker forward every time. But if it's taking a bit to process, then if you're having it do the direct edits where it will directly modify the script and you're not having to do the copy-paste dance, then it's very likely that you can click and go off somewhere and then screw it up and, it might not get it. It's still thinking right now in order to do all of these things. I don't know why it's doing multiple turns on this script. I probably should have picked something that's better. But you're going to be able to download the plugin and play and tell it to modify things. And when you turn it from ask to always, if you do that on some example scripts, you'll see that it can directly modify the scripts. But again, it's doing it all through accessibility. But I'll show you in here what the plugin has that if you're not confident in having the agent do that or wait, you're always able to copy the whole script as the XML, which is in this box right here, as it fills up all of its... Man, this agent is like slow for some reason. Cursor's supposed to be much faster than this. But it also could be, me.
Could be Zoom. Zoom can slow things down.
Zoom, and I've got my video off on the other side, plus I've got a few other things running. So I am a little bit sluggish on this here. But I've attempted to put...
How much of the processing is local for the AI agent?
Well, the only thing that processes, once it comes back, is it's coming through, it's streamed. Everything through most harnesses are streamed as JSON. Claude code, whatever, and then basically that JSON is then up to whatever the tool decides to do with it. So in my case, you've got idle pollers and things that are watching for things to be completed or the state of things. Clearis obviously having more control over the plugin API. There's a lot more they can do. They can extend it for themselves much farther than we can. We pretty much, through the plugin, only have the ability to execute scripts or evaluate calculations and do SQL. Those three things. But it's all very fast. Within C, everything is extremely fast, C++, etc. The whole reason that the plugin actually works in order to do things and the way that I envisioned this being solvable is I knew what FileMaker could already do for itself. And if I gave an agent the ability to see what it could do in conjunction with those three things, it ended up being a lot of things. So there is one script that you install into your solution, and let's see if it actually... It looks like it did make modifications. It probably messed up because I was clicking around in this, and it's much nicer when a machine's not overloaded like my machine to actually see these things. Plus, you can do selective actual edits. You can select just a range of the script, and that gets included and sent to the client, which I'll show you when we talk about the clipboard. But what I did is I created one script that's sort of like this controller script. And I said, everything that FileMaker can already do for itself, I'm going to expose that to an agent as a bridge. So this one script that the plugin actually prompts you to put into any file that you want to work with is called AGFM bridge. And this one bridge script simply takes input parameters and executes everything that we already know that FileMaker can do. One of them is evaluate an expression. Now, this can be done in a script, but it can also be directly done in the plugin. And the plugin itself does its own evaluations. FileMaker can perform a script. So if I tell an agent, hey, you can perform a script, it can perform a script. It can get a field value. It can navigate. It can go to a layout by passing in a parameter. It can create a new window. It can close a window. It can use a web viewer and set that. It can reload a web viewer, reset a web viewer, select a window. It can perform JavaScript in an arbitrary, like if you say, agent, look at what's on my layout. I have an object name XYZ, and that web viewer has JavaScript enabled. Then the agent can say, okay, I'm going to execute JavaScript through this bridge plugin, this bridge script, and it just does it. It's really pretty cool. It can open the script workspace. It can open the managed database. It can open data sources. Anything that FileMaker provides that's available to us, the plugin can do as well. One of the biggest things is this one right here, save as XML. So what I put into the plugin is I said, okay, an agent is pretty much worthless unless it has comprehension or understanding about a solution. So we'll get to that before we take a look at the few other things the bridge does. It can perform AppleScript. So anything on all of a Macintosh computer, if the agent can see that FileMaker can run AppleScript and AppleScript can access anything else on the computer and bring that back in through FileMaker, your imagination is the limitation. You're working with the mail application and you want to type in here, I've got 5 messages selected. I want you to get the contents of those 5 messages and then insert them into the table, whatever. It will be able to do it because through the plugin looks at the bridge runs the AppleScript gets a result, gives it to the agent, and it's just really cool stuff. Set fields, which that as just a secondary way of being able to modify fields using a loop, where you can already use the update, delete, and whatever else through SQL directly. So I basically just gave it multiple ways to do multiple things. That's where we get back to this save as XML. One of the first things that it's advisable to do is to give the plugin insight into the whole of your solution, everything about how it works. That all comes in the form of the save as XML. So we all know that in FileMaker we can go up to the tools and we have a save as XML. This is where the original open source plugin that started out was using, it was basically taking that SAXML and then breaking it down onto the hard drive. And the way that I was working with the agent in the open source was the agent would have to look at the files on disk, which were heavy XML, which I knew that's a very high token cost, going out to the agent, and then it was coming back as a FM XML snippet. And that was a very high token cost. So that's where with the plugin, I took the tack of I only want to use the human readable code, keep the XML on the client, don't deal with that, come up with a patch scenario so that the heavy XML never goes to and from the agent in order to do things. And that's where I came up with what I call solution intelligence. So when I click to analyze a solution, all it's doing is it's calling the FileMaker bridge script, or the agent is calling the bridge script, and hopefully it fires and I don't get lag. I'm going to get a little bit here. It's holding on to it. Are you going to run it? I've already run it on this particular file. Oh, it ran because it was super quick. And the reason I know it ran is because you can see the little icon on there, on the brain icon. It went from orange to green, which means that it's now fresh. So underneath the hood, it's not doing anything special. It is simply just capturing all of the save as XML, breaking it down, and I hate to say it because I have loved the tools for a long time, But what an agent does now is an agent obviates the need for all of your analysis tools. So you no longer need any of the three popular tools. I'm sorry, guys. I apologize. I didn't mean to do this. An agent made this possible. But now, when you process that SAXML into the database that the plugin uses, you can ask any question about the whole of the solution. So I can now ask, tell me which are the largest scripts in this solution. Because what it's going to do is, I've now exposed the SAXML through this solution intelligence, which, by the way, it's just a database. It's SQLite. It's nothing big. It's on disk. It's faster. It has a much wider, more expansive SQL dictionary. It can do sub-millisecond requests, and you can rearrange the data, and it's obscured from the user, so it's not scary. It's basically, you click the brain, you click the analyze, it runs save as XML, puts it on disk, never leaves, goes out to anywhere on the internet. It's all on the disk, processed into a database on the disk, and then when you ask questions, the LLM goes out, makes a request to the database, creates the query, gets the information back, and then presents it within the chat. And that's really all that it's doing. And so you can see right here, it's even repeating itself twice, where it's saying, I'm querying the script roster. And all that it's doing is it's searching a SQLite database for any and everything you could think about your solution. And if you've watched my videos, one of the things is that you do need to be aware, if you are storing or keeping secrets within your FileMaker schema, that means within a script or within a custom function, then you want to make sure that before you run even this, it's not immediately exposed to the agent, but if it goes into something the agent can see, such as a secret, then if you ask a question about, hey, what's in custom function my secret? Well, that just went to the provider if you're not using a local model. It went out and it's now exposed. So you always want to make sure that you are aware of the tools that you're using and what they're doing. It doesn't matter where they come from. If you are having secrets in your schema and you're not using outside secrets, then it is possible to get exposed, although it's low unless you actually ask about it. Otherwise, it's just all in the database. It doesn't leave your disk until you actually ask the wrong question, and then it goes out to the agent. And if it's a local model, which is what I'm working on next on hooking up, everything stays local. Stephen asks, can it determine cyclomatic complexity? I have no idea because I don't know what cyclomatic complexity is. Whenever I've got a solution that I know has things, all I do is I typically, prior to the new feature of the save persistent data, which even if you save it there, it's still stored in the save as XML. If you have a secret in FileMaker anywhere, it is exposed through the save as XML. I can't say that enough. So, like, I typically stored mine in custom functions, so I would just go into the custom functions, and then I would get rid of them. I would, like, go in, let's say this is the custom function right here. I would take my secret out, I would cut it, I would put in garbage, I would, have it in my password database. I then run the solution analysis. That then gets captured. No secrets are stored on disk anywhere other than whatever. So it's a temporary swap, just a bit of a hassle that you have to do if you're keeping secrets. Man, this agent is just chewing for days on whatever it was doing. It just came back there. Interesting. That's probably why I was getting the lag. So, super simple so far. We just have the prompt. We have the preview feature. Stop whatever you're doing here, agent. I don't know why you're sending all of those. So the next feature that I have here is this. I'll close this bridge. I'll close the contacts. right now what I have is the clipboard. So when I look at a particular script, there's always something that that I'm working with in FileMaker that I want to save. I already know that I work with the clipboard a lot. So this clipboard is going to be a full history of whatever you do in FileMaker. If I select this range of steps and I copy it, it went to the clipboard. You'll see up here that it went from 9 steps to 7 steps. If I have a script and I'm worried about the agent really screwing it up, all I have to do is select that script. Let's go to the bridge, and I copy it, and it gets taken to the clipboard. There is no, in Agentic FM, you really don't have to deal with the FM XML snippet if you don't want to. You simply know that the plugin is recognizing any of FileMaker's valid clipboard types. So if I go into layout mode and I select these objects and I copy them, that's on the clipboard. Now the clipboard itself is also a persistent database. And so any one of these particular items, so if I like this particular bar and I use it across multiple solutions, when I copy this and it went to the clipboard, I can see that it is a number of clipboard objects and it's saved right here. I have the ability to save this and call it something like my special bar. And what that does is that gets saved into the persistent clipboard store, where you can see that we have, everything, there it is right there, my special. So if I'm in another file, I'm able to get to anything that I've saved with regards to the, the work that I'm doing, which means that I'm now able to actually be pretty comfortable with having a modification actually being made. I don't have an agent running there. Gosh, I've got lag so bad because of this. I'm going to click new right here. Actually get rid of that. So if I'm concerned about this script and an agent modifying it and I want it, I'm just going to do a Command A, Command C, and it's copied. And if I want to save it persistently, I'm going to rename it, and that will save it into a database for me to be able to recall it anytime. But what this gave me the ability to do is this then gave me the ability to work with layout objects in a way that is really pretty cool. If I go over here to say the clients, and I go and I say, I like this selection of objects, and I copy this, that's been saved to my clipboard. It's right there. It showed up. By the way, it is possible to have a layout, a very complex layout that can be multi-megabytes. You don't want to transfer all of that information to an agent. So again, what I've done is I've got in the plugin a patch that actually keeps, like, say you've got a 2 megabyte layout that you've copied to the clipboard, but you want to make changes to it. So what happens is a small patch library is sent. Instructions are given to the agent of, here's all the things you have available, what you can swap out, and then what we can swap them into. So these little IDs that you see in front of each of these copied objects, I can work with any one of them, which is really pretty cool. And if I click it, I can literally say something like this. I copy that clipboard ID, and then I go over to the invoices, and I can literally talk to the agent and say, can you please swap out the fields from clip ID, and I paste that ID for the invoice table. And hopefully this will actually work and not be suffered my lag. Let's say, let me pick the fields, and we'll see how this one works out. So what I've done is, again, it's all about tools. I've exposed tools that, because you're copying and pasting a lot of things within FileMaker, first I'm saving all of them, then giving you the ability to name them and persist them so that when you shut down, they come back up and you can use them. But then I'm actually exposing the ability for an agent to be able to reference those on an ID basis. So it's sort of like the solution intelligence has understanding about your solution because of this XML. You can ask anything that you want. You can ask for any visualization that you want and present it within a web viewer. But then, I also gave you the clipboard tool so that with the clipboard tool, you're able to basically say, I want to use this layout, but these fields from this solution. I want to duplicate this whole layout, but I want to adapt it for this particular solution. Beyond that, it gets even a little bit more bonkers, because in agentic coding, they have whole design surfaces, and in the next version of the plugin, you can literally hand it an HTML reference and say, I want you to create a layout based on this, and it will attempt to use the HTML in order to generate a FileMaker layout with proper positioning, and then attempt to get in all of your proper IDs and field references. Now, it won't get it right all the time, but it can definitely take you in a very quick move to going from, I want a new layout to look like this, and it does it for you and gets as many of the fields in as it can. And if you're willing to work through with the agent, you can actually do multiple iterations and end up with a solution that's probably pretty nice. I don't like the speed that it's working at here, so I'm just going to have to explain these types of things, and you might have to play with them. And again, it's not going to get it bang on exactly what you have in your head. You have to work through sometimes, but it absolutely gets you in a really quick head start of interacting with this.
Can you switch models midstream?
Yeah, I could. Actually, I can just take this and stop it, and let's see. I wonder if I've got something else that's going on my, we'll see how GPT-5.5 does. We'll just paste the same prompt there, see if it goes any faster. I'm wondering if, I'm going to switch really quickly to my activity monitor and just take a quick look and see what's eating CPU. Oh, kernel task. Network, what's eating the most on that? Sent packets. Zoom is doing most of the network. Kernel is not that bad. I don't know why. Memory, energy, interesting.
Check if your disk is getting thrashed.
The disk? Nope, that's not too bad either.
Weird.
Yeah, I don't know what the best I can presume is I'm running OBS plus the Zoom is giving me enough of the lag. Agent has a question. I don't know why it's coming up with a question. Again, this plugin, like all of this stuff, it's evolving so quickly that if there's bugs in the plugin, if you've seen any of the videos, down at the very bottom, there is send support bundle. And like any good agentic programmer, this literally gives me the diagnostics to hand to an agent in order to verify end to end whether it's an actual issue, and then actually implement the fix within the plugin. Agent has a question. I don't know that it's going to do it in let me pick out. Let's see if it can just do that particular one request right there so that we can see it. Because the clipboard still has the valid ID. We'll see if ChatGPT can actually knock that out for me. Context, come back. So the only other things in the plugin are this right here, which this is a context lock, which all it's doing is if I'm on invoices, and invoices is the context with regards to the graph, so it sees all the IDs that it needs. If I lock this, that means that when I go over to products now and switch over here, when I continue my conversation, it keeps using all of the IDs from the context of the invoices, meaning in FileMaker, as we all already know, we've got our situation where, come on, FileMaker, where my context was here, but I switched over to products. It just keeps operating from this context in terms of what it actually can see. And that's probably more applicable to switching to a disconnected table occurrence group of what it does.
Does the command,
and then you've got new, and then you've got settings. Yeah, question?
Does the command line model and the chat model have to be in sync, or
No, actually they don't. In fact, you can use the CLI from somebody else and use a completely different model with if you're using codecs, what have you. And like all other chats down in here, it's got a chat history. The history, by the way, is solution specific. So if I'm working on this file and I switch to, say, another file, and I go get that chat history, it should be, let's see, archived. That's still showing it. Oh, show all. Turn off. Turn off. This was also recently added in. Archived. Could be a bug, as we're all getting used to this. The plugin does attempt to tell you when it can't do things. For example, I switched into this file and you can see that it's giving me a dialog that Open Quickly is unavailable. So as we all know, if I can't bring up Open Quickly to navigate, then the plugin wouldn't be able to use Open Quickly. And on this, it has a custom menu. So if I switch the menu, then that dialog goes away, so that now Open Quickly is available, which means it's available to the plugin in order to navigate to a script, to a layout, to what have you, plus use the bridge script, which are other ways that it can navigate as well. The models are just simply, and because of my lag, I'm assuming you'll have to play with the plugin and play with these IDs that I'm telling you about, that when you click them, you can say, here I've got 2 fields. These are 2 that I did where I had fields from 1. So what I did is I had gone in, I made a copy of the layout objects. So I went like this, and I copied my layout objects, copied those to the clipboard. Then I knew that there were 10 fields. I went into the defined database. Oh, this lag is just killing me. Are you guys seeing the spinning thing? Anyway, I went to a different database, arbitrarily selected 10 different fields like those, copied those to the clipboard. This was my test that I actually set up with the agent, and then literally wrote the prompt. I want you to use the clip ID of the layout objects and swap in with the field objects. So I said, use this clip ID and then swap it in with this clip ID, and then it put them on the clipboard and I just pasted them in. So literally things that I would have to do manually, double clicking, I'm going to have an agent do all of that swapping for me. LLM side, do it lightweight, bring it back, and then do it heavyweight on the client side. And that just was another thing. Again, the chats are remembered. You can load a chat. You can archive a chat. Looking at things before, that's a really ugly one. Oh my gosh, with the sideways, Matt.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
When you do paste the layout objects back to the new layout, you're going to have to manually set the tab orders, because I don't think they exist on the clipboard.
Yeah. Again, this plugin can only go so far. Whatever Claris hasn't exposed in terms of being able to control, that's all field options. You cannot, nothing in the environment can directly affect or change relationships. Now, there is the ability to work with the relationships using the tools, the FM, what is the developer or the upgrade tool? I forget which one it is, but I'm planning on putting that into the plugin. But I'm really interested to see what Claris does with their own plugin in terms of what they expose. If they keep it for themselves, whatever they can additionally expose from underneath the engine through the plugin API, but then other plugin providers don't get it, then I won't be able to do anything that they can only do themselves. My hope would be that they would expose it so that as many different agentic processes from however many vendors could actually take advantage of FileMaker would be the wiser way. But you never know. They may need the incentive themselves in order to keep people using FileMaker. You've got to go through our particular plugin. But I've taken advantage of everything that I could. Down at the bottom, we've got folders. Just like any other agent, you can actually connect in folders. You can add a folder that will come up, let you select the folder, and then from that point, this internal agent can actually see that folder. Which brings me to the last thing that I'll leave you with here that the plugin does. And the reason that I didn't go into the open source product is because the plugin is much more highly optimized. But if you want to use the open source, most things that I'm doing with the plugin can be done with the open source project. The free one, it's easy to do. I had to try to make a little bit back for the amount of time it's taken me to do this, so I did have to charge for it. But the last thing that I've gotten here is you can see that I've got this thing, remote access is active. So in this plugin, I've taken a completely different approach than some of the other things that people are doing, which you'll hear MCP. MCP is a very popular thing that what happens is in the realm of agentic coding, an MCP server loads everything not everything. It loads all of the descriptions of what it can do. If you haven't learned about the markdown files and then skills and how skills work and front matter and what an agent does with front matter in terms of loading that into context as opposed to loading the full description of the skill, my suggestion would be use those words, type them into your agent, and then say, explain to me what front matter is versus the full instructions of a skill. And that will inform you of what's going on. Well, MCP is sort of the same thing where it just loads all of these things in terms of a bridge of getting into an environment. I took a different approach. I took an API approach with the plugin, and I wanted the plugin to be something that I could use locally here on my machine, but I could also put on another machine or another 3 machines with 3 different client solutions. So what you're seeing here of remote access is active is the way that the plugin works is everything in the plugin is endpoints. So when I click this copy agent instructions, when I paste that into an external agent, it can literally see inside of FileMaker and see all of the endpoints and what it can do. So if I switch over to, say, Codex could be the problem. Who knows what it's doing in the background. If on my machine, and I've got it set up as a remote agent, and that's because I use a sandboxed client. But if I paste into this, let's see if it actually would see this. What it should do is it will try to connect to the plugin. And I don't know if it will through this network because normally it's seeing my local network, which is with my IP there, my internal IP. I want to be able to have this be able to see locally, which I'm guessing it probably won't see at this particular point. In fact, I'm going to turn off the remote agent and scroll down to the network and turn that off, which reloads my thing, and then I'm going to restart the server. So built into the plugin is basically just a standard web server. And I'm going to restart it right now. And you can see when you scroll in the plugin and you look at what the plugin has available, one of those things is this network section. So I can copy this URL and I can copy those instructions and give them to an agent so I can actually see it. Let's click on a new chat. I don't use this actually. Deny in this particular case. I want to stop because that's not how I want to see this. I want to create a new chat. Just create a new chat. There we go. Now I want to copy the instructions and then do it local, which is much better. There we go. So you can see these instructions, that's all that it is. It's a server in FileMaker that's serving up all of the different things that I've sort of exposed as tools via the bridge, via whatever else. So if you like working with Codex or with Claude Desktop, you're going to use Claude Code on Claude Desktop, and on ChatGPT, it should just work. So you can see right here that it actually, my Codex application is looking into FileMaker. It sees this, which the chat window doesn't even have to be open. It sees the embedded server, and it saw all of the things that it can do. So over here, I can actually say, can you open up the sandbox script? And what it's going to do is it uses those endpoints in order to actually do things in FileMaker. So whether you do things in the internal agent or the external agent, I've just made it so that it can actually do things with FileMaker. And you can see that it just switched from Codex. My hands are right here. I'm not actually doing it. And sometimes it takes a little while. Sometimes it's faster. Again, it all depends on the model. But you can see that it opens the scripting workspace, and it opened the sandbox, the script that I wanted. And now it's asking me for other apps. Go ahead, currently. And then it opened the actual target script. And so over here in Codex, and I can do the same thing in the chat window, by the way. Can you please put a simple loop in that script? And you just say what you want. And again, these examples are so simple. You can get so much more complex. From this Codex or from Claude, remember, it's looking at an HTTP server inside the plugin. It can actually see and then look into the solution intelligence. So if I've processed the save as XML into the plugin, then everything from my external agent that's inside of FileMaker can also be seen as well. And you can see it's actually saying what it did, the HR snippet. So HR is what I created, what I in the plugin call human readable versus the FMXML. So the agent is working with the human readable snippet, but then when it gets it into the actual script, that's where the plugin is taking over and doing the heavy XML in order to actually do all this for me. And see, here you can see that what the agent actually did is it created its own little Ruby helper. It's pretty crazy to watch these agents and what they do. We'll see if it actually gets into the script here. And so I'm about to wrap up and then answer any of your questions, because I could literally go on for, hours upon hours of all the things that this is doing. Oh, the server is still live. That was a hiccup on the paste call. I'm still trying to insert now. Real bad lag on this. My suggestion would be try the plugin out and see what type of speed you get. I don't know what's going on with my machine, unfortunately. And I hate it when that happens too on demos. Insert endpoint does not require XML, so I'm sending a compact XML payload instead of the multi-line one. Same loop with the exit condition counter 1. So forth. Thinking. Man, this click. And one thing I am interested in is if you do have a super large solution. I know that FileMaker solutions can get up to you export the save as XML, and I've heard of 2 gigabytes. I've never experienced that myself. I've never even dealt with it. And so currently there are settings in the plugin that it is limited based on the amount of memory that you have available, because I'm reading the whole thing in. I would otherwise have to actually, with the XML on disk, if it was 2 gigs, you then have to stream it. You have to take a completely different approach for the fact that FileMaker solutions can get pretty crazy wild, huge. And again, I don't know why this is so slow. No hands here. I'm not doing that. It's editing the script workspace. Super simple example. It's telling me what it did, and of course it did it. But it's much nicer when everything's really fast and I don't have the lag that I've got going on right here. When you see it actually just edit a script really quick, or when you see it just swap a script out and then pop a new one in, or create multiple scripts, it's really pretty cool to watch it do that and not have to do the copy and paste back and forth of what you're having to do. But that is the core of what the script is doing, or the plugin is doing. It's how I've got it wired up. It's how I've thought about it, trying to make it work with external agents no matter what you use, with an internal agent, with being able to actually have it help you understand by looking at a FileMaker solution, providing you with guidance, being able to take you directly to places within FileMaker, using Open Quickly, using a bridge script, using these things that get you in places, preserving your work so that you have the sense of security that it can't screw up something because you've actually saved it into an environment where you can get back at whatever the agent did. I should also mention that you already know this. Remember, within FileMaker, you can always undo a script. So I just undid what the agent actually put in. So as long as you've got FileMaker's undo, you can undo a script back to its original state, which is a second way of saving things so that you have the peace of mind. And there's more coming in terms of what's coming down the pike, as they say. It is multilingual. I support the languages, although I haven't, clearly gone through all of those with. Oh gosh, there's so much more. Let's cancel that and let's go ahead and I don't need to save that script. Don't save. Don't care about it. Go away. Skills. I did recently put skills into the plugin. So if I click this open skills folder, we're going to see a number of skills that are already out there. So shout out Darren, and then also Wim. So the plugin, you never should have to do everything yourself. And so Wim's already created Claris docs, which actually is a good breakdown of all of the online docs that Claris is providing in Markdown. And then Darren has released a base elements plugin skill and a monkey bread plugin skill. So I don't have to embed that into the plugin. And if I'm using the monkey bread plugin, I can actually tell it use the monkey bread MBS plugin from Darren, and then it can write monkey bread functions within my scripts by using skills. And that is something that you can enable or disable. Agent self-configuration, that then everybody is really, I should show you this because you're going to get mad at me when you see that it creates scripts in a way that you don't like. In other words, the way that comments are actually made, the type of header that is actually put. Let me show you where you control that. Everything I've put into Agentic FM, I've done it with the intention of you being able to have full control. If you like a different look, down at the bottom there is themes. So if you like a dark theme, etc., you can change the theme to whatever you want, light or dark, if it's supported. You can even tell an agent to create a theme for you for Agentic FM. So looking in the preferences, that's where this, where is it? The agent self-configuration. If this is toggled on, what's going to happen is you chatting with the agent, whichever one you choose. If I go to the system settings for this plugin, oh, the lag, whatever is dragging this down, I'm going to have to find out. And I go to the plugins and I select Agentic FM and click on configure. It's going to open up the folder where all of the different things that it uses in order to manage how things come out are in your control. There's a conventions.json. This is just a regular JSON file. If you do not like the way that the agent is creating its commenting, go to the commenting section and then give it the style that you want for comments. If you want section markers to use something other than what I have set here of use disabled comment steps with the word mark, then you change this whole thing. This is the definition of how you tell an agent how you want scripts to actually be written. And I can't do that for you. But you can tell the agent, can you modify these conventions for me? Or can you create a theme for me using one of these themes as a starting point? And if in the plugin, this agent self-configuration is checked, it should be able to look in this folder and make those changes, add that theme, what have you. What it can't modify are the security. So these two files of the security allow you to literally control from the outside what the plugin can or can't do. And that is because FileMaker, when it has MBS installed or base elements installed, it can then in turn see everything that's on the operating system. Well, if you don't want that, then the security deny by default is attempting to deny all of the things that could go wrong if an agent knows about them, and agents already do know about them. So you can see that in security deny, we are denying that the plugin should be able to call MBS and use its shell plugin. We're denying that it should be able to call MBS and run AppleScript. Again, we want to make sure that the agent can't do more than it can, although I will tell you this. When you hear about Fable and you hear about the models being able to get around things, I've already seen it get around these things, and it does it in really obscure ways. And every time I find one, I try to block it in terms of what it's doing. It will do things like it will take the echo command and it will turn that into base 64, encode it, and then pipe it to like another script in order to get it through. It's really pretty funny how it does things. Key bindings. You can control the key bindings within Agentic FM. What else is there? The preferences. No big deal. Skills has its own folder. Sandbox is where things can be modified by the agent in order to do things. Providers is a folder where it lists all of the different providers. Claude, Codex, Cursor. Gemini is actually defunct now. Pi client, if you want to use a client that will go to Amazon Bedrock or local models or anywhere else, we can already do that. Everything else in the plugin is basically just preferences.
Hey, Matt.
Like how much can the clipboard hold, etc. Yeah.
Can you have it look at a script and then apply your FileMaker standards to that script?
Sure.
Sweet.
Yeah. I mean, literally the agent will do anything. In fact, if an agent has access to the information, then I haven't tried it, but literally if I opened a FileMaker solution and I run the solution intelligence, which it now has the save as XML, inclusive of scripts embedded within the SQLite database, I can type to the agent, I'd like to modify the conventions that you use according to what is currently being used in the solution. So again, just using a natural language prompt, it should be able to look into solution intelligence, see what the conventions were for that file, then through the self-modification, literally modify this convention's JSON so that any future scripts that are created according to that particular file.
But
the problem is it only exists as this one file. So as soon as you switch to another file, you'd have to repeat and do that same cycle again.
My question is does the FileMaker standards website, do they have all the markdown files for the AI to understand the structure and the convention?
No, I just ripped it and then I put it in this JSON file.
Sweet.
So it's not going out to reference it. It's literally just using whatever is in this file. In fact, it says the source was used the FileMaker standards, but you can hand this file to an agent and just have it change the file, and then swap it out wholesale, or you can do it in here and just say modify the conventions. That's what I would do. I mean, I won't write things by hand myself anymore.
So here's an example. Can you have it take a perform find script step that's all encapsulated in there in that FileMaker GUI, and convert that to a standard? Go to layout, go to find mode, set field, perform find. Can you have it convert that one style script into a block?
I don't see why not. I mean, you can literally, when you interact with it, if you've got the script workspace up, and because you can select a range and it knows the selection as well. So like if I select lines 10 through 20, I should be able to basically just say, if you already had saved a clipboard, let's say you had a clipping right here and I want to use this clip ID, I could basically just say, can you refactor this script with the conventions in clip ID, paste, whatever. And then once it does that one, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't be able to say, okay, can you now go find all other scripts that have that same pattern? And because an agent can do a query into the SQLite database, it could absolutely find all of the other scripts that have that same pattern, and then you could attempt to walk through them one at a time. The only limitation you'll have in that scenario might be context, is depending on how the context gets up. And this little context indicator, it attempts to do the context, but every different provider, they have their own different way using their command line tools of how they provide context tracking back. Claude is one of the most efficient, but I'm like, OpenAI is different than Cursor CLI, and then Pi doesn't even really. That Pi is a harness around going out to other models. So it really is hit or miss. None of all of these are the same. They're all different in terms of how they do things. Thanks, Vince. So at this point, if you guys have any questions, that's what the plugin does. The open source can do it as well, but now that I put skills into the plugin, I'm using more of the plugin than I am my open source project. But yeah, it's amazing what we're able to do these days.
Just to add a point when it comes to the skills, it can do a lot in a skill. You can create a skill that has the scripts syntax, like the Goya plugin or the MBS plugin, like what Wim has done, and I've done this as well, is to have a skill based on the script steps and the functions of FileMaker itself, so it doesn't hallucinate out, a script, a function that doesn't actually exist. But you can have a design pattern for your scripts as well, to say whenever you put a script together, use the design pattern skill to format my script. And that can live in a skill that you can use in your harness, or it can be a skill that's in your skills folder inside the plugin, or again, the conventions like Matt's built. So all this is building blocks that you can use in different places and end up with a script that looks like your normal conventions. And if there are MD files, you can go and build a script based on those MD files that can either live locally on your drive or is simply a pointer to the online reference. But the agents don't know about our platform. We need to teach it. It knows how to go and build the mermaid reports, and it knows how to interact with the elements when we tell it what the elements are. But at the end of the day, what we build in the skills and what we build in Matt's conventions in the plugin, that's where it's getting its knowledge about FileMaker, and that's been a missing part.
Yeah, and that's what hopefully I'm hopeful that Claris, whatever they release, because they have access to the internals, is I'm hopeful that if they do a plugin, because it's very hard to muck around with the FileMaker UI, for them to go in and actually within the script workspace put, something on the side like a chat window, and then actually have it directly. I mean, heck, if they embedded it right, you wouldn't even need to see the scripts. It would just write the scripts, and you need to be able to review the scripts at option if you wanted to. Otherwise, once it knows enough about how to do things and you've provided enough of the harness, it gets them pretty much like 99% of the way.
So
and the only thing you're then trying to do is find bugs, and that's when you're telling the agent, hey, here's the issue, can you go fix it? And then it fixes what it created, so you never even needed to look at it anyway.
Are you okay to be Sherlocked?
What's Sherlocked?
Where Apple takes over and just takes over what you did and just embeds it into the next solution. You remember Sherlock?
Oh yeah, no. I mean that's
yeah.
I have no illusions that this is going to last or whatever. In fact, if Claris wants to purchase what I've got right now and work with some of the framework and everything I put behind it and embed it and then make a Windows version, because I don't know what you're going to do for Windows. On Windows, they don't have the equivalent accessibility API, so they'd have to write their own, which means they're going to have to write C code to make FileMaker be able to take the interaction. I have no illusions that what I've created is temporary.
So that brings up a question about the fact that you use the Mac OS only accessibility. Would you think probably the best path is it really to make a cross-platform plugin that can do work exactly the same on both platforms, or you think using accessibility is the way to go?
Without being inside Claris and not knowing what their R&D budget is, they have some choices that they have to make in terms of their implementation, and the accessibility would not be the way because it's Apple only if they want to be truly cross-platform with they have to literally write in their own APIs and then provide a direct bridge for an agent to be able to get in, make modifications regardless of platform, and be able to do things. Whether they're going to pursue that or I don't know. I mean, Apple's got enough money that they'd be able to throw so many GPUs at that they'd probably be able to get a lot of stuff done within weeks, if not months. But I don't know how quickly they're moving internally.
Yeah.
But man, if they spent the money, they'd be able to do it.
Yeah.
Or if they're using AI to help them build the platform.
That's what I mean. They should be. That I mean, when you look at Claude Desktop and you look at every single day there's a release that comes out. The one thing that goes against FileMaker that prevents them from doing that type of release schedule, which would make sense why if they're going to take a plugin approach, is the plugin stands outside of the stability. Is they can't mess with this stability. If they start messing with the stability, they've already got one thing going against them, which is migration out of FileMaker because of what agents can do in terms of I mean, you can adapt this schema, structure, and UI within a couple of days out of FileMaker. Claris knows that. So what they need to do is they need to be able to retain whoever's invested in FileMaker currently, and they have to make it so that you've got all of us who are like, oh, we know what we can do fast over here, but we can't do it fast within here, and that's what they have to solve. They've got to solve we can do it fast in here as well. There's no reason to leave. That would be my guess. I mean, and that I've got strong opinions on, like, if I was the CEO, what I'd be doing.
And all the benefits of the security model and everything that's underlying the benefits of FileMaker. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're selling that, but quite honestly, if you have an agent and you have models, that's a whole other topic out there, the whole cybersecurity conversation. But if the model is accessible in order to lock down a solution as much as it is able to hack a solution, a person's feelings with regards to security isn't so much like I I don't buy that argument myself as much. Like, oh, FileMaker is so secure because we know that it can be hacked, but if you've got something that you've coded in another language, you're able to run that through security reviews as well. So like with this plugin, I used Fable, and if you know the terminology, there's a good video out there where he talks about the state of security, and there's a couple of keywords that you can use, and capture the flag. I don't know why that is one of the terms that got taken over, but you can write a prompt that says, I want you to run, you have a challenge. We're going to play capture the flag. You need to find how many security holes and bugs you can in this current code base. And that model then goes and hunts for every possible thing. And then you just take the results of that and then pass that to another agent and say, hey, you're going to patch all of these, and you patch all of them. So if you can use an agent to actually solve the security issue using a security, hey, we've got the best security, is sort of like okay, you can make that claim, but it's solvable. For me, it's in FileMaker, it's a matter of who's currently using it and what's the lever that they have that gives them leverage. And for me, it's basically always been layout mode. And I would be afraid that if they're going, everything's a web viewer now, I don't think I wouldn't do it. I'd be trying to figure out how you could use agentic coding in order to actually fill out your user interface as well as leverage the web viewer and what it can do. But
hey, Matt, I'll jump in and say, yeah, I think the correct answer about layout building is sometimes, I'd say even often, use the FileMaker awesome 30 years and counting layout development tools, and then sometimes use the web viewer. I think that's the only correct answer. Having said that, I really was very impressed with the deep link thing that you demonstrated. So I have a question on that, and I'm going to frame it in a use case. Let's imagine that you have a single file solution and you want to refactor a little bit. The new window command at some point picked up some new features. I think it was like the ability new window and the go to layout was built in. So the example would be like, hey, I want instead of new window go to layout, I want to just combine it because I'm guaranteed to be on sufficient version. Can your tooling, like I think the workflow is save as XML, can your tool currently say, hey, give me a list of what you call them deep links, whereby I can click and then it'll take me to a script and a line number with a new window, and I can just kind of work through them one by one. I hope that question made sense.
Yeah, let's see if my model will go fast enough. Something else in here is actually competing with FileMaker, I'm guessing.
It's
something that's watching the screen.
It's Zoom.
I think it's Zoom as well.
I've seen it. I know it. I actually, when I do a lot of the work that I do, I use one computer for the Zoom, and then I do the work on a separate computer, a little hippity hop over VNC. So I would just, for the record, blame Zoom. It's a terrific program, but it wants desperately to draw the screen.
Yeah, and I'm running Zoom, OBS, and FileMaker, and I'm watching the screen, or the plugin is watching the accessibility of this to know what's open, and so it's got a polling too. So that's why I'm guessing.
If you turned off Zoom, it would run faster, but then we couldn't see.
Yeah, that would be the problem. So like this, on this script, when I have this script open, I can say, can you open all other scripts called by this script? And it would ultimately, it'll be able to do it, because it's literally, the plugin is only taking advantage of everything that's in FileMaker that we would do manually. So all it's going to do is it will go use open quickly, and if this script referenced 5 other scripts, it would simply open them. Same with, if I go in here and I did a search, and you can see it's opening, although in this particular scenario, what it's doing is because FileMaker shows a preview of the script, it's actually not opening the script in its individual tab. That's probably an issue I should make it do if you want to.
Hey, Matt, have you ever used I like the guy who did the Developer Tool Assistant. I've used that tool. Have you ever used that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think it looks to me, based on what you presented here, that including, selecting 5 lines, it looks to me that you've got all of the pieces to, build the list of things that you want to look at. Like if for anyone who's listening who's used Developer Tool Assistant, you're like, hey, give me a list of all the XYZ in this, and then you have that list, and then you can kind of work through the list. Like, show me all the scripts that are commented out, show me all the scripts that are broken. The deep links that you showed looked very appealing in that regard. And the final question, final question is, can you call these deep links from outside? Let's say that you had a pre-existing analysis with one of the big 3 DDR analysis tools. Is that exposed as an external API? Like, hey, do this deep link. That would be amazing, but unlikely.
In order to, you mean like get an external XML file?
Oh, let's say that you're in Inspector, Base Elements, or FM Perception, any one of those 3. And they reported like, hey, I have a broken field calculation, and I want to click a button on that, in that developer tool, one of those 3 I just mentioned, and then I wanted to somehow magically call one of these deep link constructs that you have, and then I wanted to go to the correct file, to go to the correct table, and then to go to the correct field. So I'm sitting there.
Exactly.
Okay, so you got 2 votes. That was Steve Dolinsky, I think, it sounded like.
Yeah, I mean, here's the cool thing. Anything that you try in this plugin, if you try something and then it doesn't do what you want or you expect, if you just click this and then you go to send support bundle and then you say, I'd like it to do blah, 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 and you send me that, what I do is I take that support bundle and then I put it into my environment, which then understands how I've coded the plugin, and then it can basically make the feature happen. It can even be, a day. Most of the time it's the time that it takes me to get a few features in, and then I release like every 5 days.
So every week, Dave has a office hours where we talk about FM perception and all sorts of things. But one of the things he talked about was having a way to deep link from the analysis tool. I have a field, I have this custom function, I have this or whatever, and I click a button and it will render or just take you to that point in the solution.
Right.
Yeah.
That was his goals. Yeah.
If it's accessible, like custom functions, those aren't accessible with Open Quickly, are they? I don't think so. Nope. If it's in Open Quickly, then you can jump to it. So anything that you can hit with Open Quickly with Command K, then the agent can see that object in the solution intelligence and then jump to it. So it can't do custom functions, but if Claris exposes it, then yeah, it would be able to jump to custom functions. It would be able to jump wherever you want.
The ultimate thing would be like, there's an object on this layout, a field, and it's XYZ positioned off the layout, and it would actually go to it and highlight it or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, my development version of the plugin, it does have the ability to interact with layout objects, but it's a little bit more janky and requires more precision. But it can go to a layout via the bridge script, and then it can go to see everything in here in this object inspector. It can see this object inspector. So if it knows what the name of it is, it can definitely go to a layout. Once it's on that layout, it can go to this sidebar, and then it can go to a button, and when it selects it, it would then be highlighted. So that is absolutely doable currently with what we have available. I just don't have it in the plugin.
Fantastic.
But if FileMaker can target it, then you just need to give the agent information in order to make it happen, and it's absolutely doable.
And just, by the way, let me riff on that. And this would be an external. Matt, I see you're using Zoom. I did it with Mouse as Apple Scriptable, so you can actually put a little spotlight, which is kind of funny.
I have mine set to a keyboard, to a mouse command.
You can, Matt.
mouse.
One day I said to myself, like, "Hey, I wonder if Mouse is Apple Scriptable," and I opened it up, and it was, and I was like, "Holy smoke! I can do what Steve Delansky just asked. I can with Apple Script, you can already go to the file, go to the layout, and then the missing piece was, let me just put a spotlight, and it was like pretty cool. I've actually used it to kind of clean up, find broken objects, and this and that.
Yeah,
but if you don't have Mouse Bazet, then what you just mentioned would be the lower cost. Not that I have any broken objects on any layouts.
Huh. I've got a question for you. You brushed pretty quickly past something that's actually really relevant to me. I'm working on a great big ancient legacy system. That is, it's funny you tossed out that number. The old XML DDR, not XML2, is 2 gigabytes on this system. So up until you uttered that sentence, I was salivating to get this thing going against that system because I'm getting hit with all kinds of requests on a giant system that I don't really know that well. And you talked about streaming. What I've been doing actually is I parsed the XML DDR into, much like you are, into a SQLite database, and I have an agent writing Python queries to get me what I need. I'm wondering what to. You talked about streaming, but I don't exactly know what you mean by that, and I'm wondering what to expect when I fire this thing up against a system.
Basically what it does is there's two ways. You can either read the whole file into memory and then process it. That's really fast, but your machine has to have enough memory. So like in the plugin here, when you look at solution intelligence, you scroll down, you can see that it's got a max SAXML file size. So I've got it set to 800 megabytes. You can, if you have the space, if you have the RAM, you can jack this up to a 2 gigabyte. You can go 2048, and then it will try to parse it. But if you go to 2048, it shows right here, parsing uses about 3 times the file size in RAM. So if you have a 2 gigabyte file, and you set it so that you can go up to that file size, it will end up using or requiring 6 gigabytes of memory in order to process. But if you've got a 64 gigabyte machine, you can try it, and it'll load the whole thing in the memory, parse it, and then get it into the database.
Yeah, well, I'm pushing it. I got 32, which I'm hoping will be enough. But yeah, I'm tremendously excited about this. If it can handle this, because it's going to make a big difference in my day job.
The number one thing is make sure that you there's so many people that they download the plugin and then they say it's so slow, it takes so long, and they're processing like a multi-megabyte file over the network with high latency.
Right.
And I can't help. If you don't understand the fundamentals, I can't solve that problem other than I can say, oh, you're on the network. No, we're not gonna do this, which is what I probably should say. But get the file local, export, fastest disk you can, and then jack up the amount of memory and then see if it'll get it in, and it might be able to get it in. Once it does, the database is really small. It's really lightweight to do queries against it.
Now, what happens if it's just too big for the amount of memory I have? It's just going to take a long time.
If you don't have the amount of memory, that's when you have to go to a different processing structure. Like, because I'm the embedded thing I'm using for processing XML, because it does it all in memory, you have to go with a different library like XPAT, something that will actually stream, which means it reads the file in chunks as it gets done, and then it gets done. So it's basically pull, and then post-process, and then release.
Well, is that practical? Is that something I can do if I need to, or is that something that needs to be done?
Yeah. there's languages for it. There is, in fact, if you look at it, because there's a guy who's doing it, GitHub, what is it? FM Lab. Let's see if it's got the lab. It's the guy that's doing it with the DuckDB. I forget what it is. Maybe I have it in here. Nope, I don't know what it's going to be. Bummer. Here's what I do. This is a good tip if you want to know this. Go to GitHub and click search, then search for FileMaker as a keyword, and then go to this sort option and go recently updated.
Oh,
That's a really good way to see who's doing stuff with FileMaker. And if you'll find, like here you can see Andy is doing all of his XML stuff, but in here,
I guess what I'm not understanding is, so I've already got the whole everything I need parsed into a SQLite database. Can the plugin interact with my database, or does it have to build its own?
No, because it'll be a complete. It's just like one FileMaker schema is different than another FileMaker schema.
Okay.
So it's real. I'm parsing into my particular schema based on the types of requests that I'm doing against it.
Okay.
There it is, FM Lab. It's that right there. He has in here, when we scroll down, query digital twin. Where is it? Quick starts. There. Do a query. Look for this Katana XML engine.
Okay.
For conversion speed. That keyword right there, you give that to an agent. I believe it's a Python library. And what it'll do is it'll rip a much larger, like 2-3 gig file, and it streams the file in order to process.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to play with it. It's all a bit new to me, but okay, that's a good place to start. And okay, other quick questions. So we got a pretty small team, 3 to 5 people, depending on how we want to use it. So I could sell them on this. Your license, does that cover site, or would we need separate licenses for each developer?
It's a developer. It's so it's not site based. It's just a developer. And so if you've got a team of 5, then I would just appreciate, and if they're all using it, 5.
Yeah.
And I've tried to make it reasonable, knowing that it may be a temporary thing. I don't know what Claris is going to come up with, so for whatever the cost was, I figured, shoot, I mean, somebody should be able to get the amount of the cost of the license pretty quickly in terms of this time savings.
It's incredibly reasonable. No argument there. I just want to have the facts so I can present them. I want to be able to say for sure.
Yeah, no, just simple per developer.
Coolio.
I put a link in the chat for FM Forums. We have a page for all this AI stuff. So if you have something, post it there.
Oh, cool.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, Matt, we've already put the Agentic FM links in there on the list. And Andy's stuff's in there as well with his XML skills. One of the ones that Andy does have there is a analysis tool that he's put forward. And
I saw that recently.
The save as XML. That he's built a single HTML file that takes your save as XML and then reads it in, and then you can
web page. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. Andy and I have just been fine-tuning it lately.
No, it's nice. In fact, I've been meaning to get back to Andy. So my dev plugin actually has more endpoints and does more stuff than the end result plugin, just because I need it for certain analysis. And part of that was I automated running through and validating and verifying all of his bit settings on that. And so I'm actually going to compile a result, and I'll give it to him where he's got a few of them that are incorrect.
Yeah. We're bouncing through different versions at the moment. We're up to 2.1, I think, or 2.2. So yeah, it's interesting the way that the agent interprets the settings coming out of Save as XML, where it can get the custom functions confused with real functions just because of the way the XML's been structured coming out of Claris. So there really needs to be a clear spec on how the XML works.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, keeping all the bit settings, there's no point to it. But yeah, what my plugin does is it puts it in, it sets a bit, and then puts it back, and then reads the clipboard, and then just round trips it multiple times over and over on all the different, just incrementing each of the different bit options, and then actually going in and looking at the UI. I mean, it's really like we hear if I actually say on this, take a screenshot of something, it will actually screenshot this and then look at it. And so what it does is it will actually go into layout mode. It will switch to the right tab, and then it will screenshot whether or not that option is on or off and correlate it with the bit setting, which is pretty cool. But that's not in that plugin. That's in the developer plugin in order for me to actually do the mapping to verify. I already had half of what Andy had, but I didn't keep going because I kept thinking Claris is going to release this because they just did their XML stuff or the Markdown stuff. And I thought they're going to release. I mean, they've got to know that they might as well just release, but they'd have to dedicate somebody to gathering it all and releasing it. But
yeah, somebody asked about a file that had all the functions in it. And so I took that on as a project to build a skill that went and created all the fields and all the scripts. And so Andy and I were bouncing that around to say, here are all the fields and all the scripts. If we then go to paste that into FileMaker, what do we get? And like you say, a few of the tags and the bits were out of sync. And so we're able to bring them both up to parity so that we've got all the FileMaker 26 functions, and it creates like 700 script steps from the skill.
Oh, nice.
And Stephen, you can also tell it, use my design patterns skill to format that script a particular way as well. You know, whether you want a space before your comments or whether you want your functions separated by spaces, whether it's your method to use, allow user abort off, set error capture on at the start of scripts, and then an exit script at the bottom. You can tell it, this is how I like to do things in the skill, and it can be applied to every script you build within your harness.
Yep.
We've got so much control with this agentic side of things.
The automation is insane.
Yeah.
I mean, and the biggest difference is every time that people say, oh, it doesn't get things right. It doesn't get things right because it doesn't have the guidance. But once you give it the guidance, it gets it mostly right most all the time. Like, amazingly so. I always put that down to that becomes a skill issue. If it's sort of like if I asked a kid to go well, I do ask my kid. If I asked him the first time, hey, go change the car's oil, and they know nothing, and I haven't give them any instructions, how foolish am I to expect that I'm going to get the result that I want until I actually give them step by step, here's what you do. And that's all I've thought about is that structure just is needed for FileMaker. And so hopefully they do a bang up job with whatever they implement. I'm looking forward to it.
It's the whole point of context engineering. It's got to get that context right.
Oh, yeah.
I had a long chat last week with Matthew Hardy, who I'm disappointed isn't here. He's doing some really wonderful stuff with building with AI. He, like you, he doesn't touch FileMaker Client anymore either. He's doing it all with AI. And he said something that really stuck with me. He said, yeah, you just talk to it like it's 2 years old. Do this. Okay, did you do it? Did you really do it?
Yeah, and then a really good key thing is, let's save your gathered insights into a doc, and then it saves that, and then you use that as your preempt to say, okay, we're going to do this with this reference, and then it just loads it and it knows it.
Yeah, that's what he's doing. He's actually spending a lot because he is tokenized. He's been through a very long learning process with it, and he's tokenized and recorded all. He's got it all recorded in Markdown, and all of it gets slurped up at the beginning of every session as context. And he's doing amazing things with it. And he's doing, I was skeptical when I started talking to him, and he had won me over by the end. He's really doing fantastic stuff.
Oh, there's nothing you can't do. I mean, there's literally like. And it's so easy that even once you've created something and the difference between like AI slop and not is your ability to actually just work through what needs to be revised, because you can always revise it into something better. So if you understand software development and then how to structure code, even if the first thing it creates is crap, it's like clay. You can just mold that into the next thing until it fits where you want the whole structure. And so your whole job now is not getting those one little pieces of code right. Your job is getting all of the code that is created into a really nice, good structure. You're the architect. You're not the coder anymore.
Yeah. And recording a rubric of how you got it into that good structure, so that can always be replicated.
Yeah.
And I've found that as being one of the huge benefits of putting this stuff up on GitHub is that you have a change log and you can show someone your thought process is how you got from version 1 to version 1.50, like Matt's got of the plugin, that it has gone through this process. It's this thought process. You shouldn't, there's this whole idea of AI one-shotting something. That's not our world. We didn't do that as developers. Why should we expect the agent to one-shot? And if you look at what Matt's been through with the plugin from the first version to now, there's history of all the years of development that he's been through to get to this point. And you see it there. And that's opening the Komodo of where he's got to from here. That's a key part of what we should be doing with how we develop our software as well. This is a software project, building a plugin with an agent. And it's a key way of, there does have to be a cognitive shift on how we develop when we're using an agent. You are using an intern, you're using a 2-year-old developer. You cannot expect it to know what you were thinking. And a lot of solo developers need to shift.
That actually, there's a really good, what you bring up, what's interesting about version control and Git in particular is that it itself is a database of the history of your decisions of how things were structured. In FileMaker, the way that I would use an agent in FileMaker within the script workspace is I would literally create and treat scripts as markdown files. So I will create a script and then I will call that script history. And then what I would do is when I interact with an agent, I will actually tell the agent to keep the log of the changes that were made in my FileMaker solution within the history script. Because we're just literally talking about text. If I have an insert text step here, insert text, are you going to do that? Insert text. Each one of these can be literally analogous to a markdown file within a history folder. And that history contains, whatever I want. And then because I'm processing that into the database as this save as XML, it's all right there for an agent to read. So within the plugin actually has a section which I didn't even cover in here. Towards the bottom, there is a section called custom instructions. So in the custom instructions, that actually goes out and becomes part of what's called the system prompt. So in this, I can actually say the history script is the decision log for how things were developed. And then I would just say, keep your insights logged there. And so what would happen is, because this goes out as part of the system prompt, every time that I go make a change to a script, I can then very easily, let me click save on that, save. So you're literally able to write your system prompt. So then after I've edited a script, literally I just say, now make a log of this to the history. And that's it. And it sees the system prompt. The system prompt then knows, oh, I need to find a script name history. It goes, looks at the solution intelligence, opens the history script, and adds a new insert text. Just like it does with markdown files, but you're doing it all within FileMaker because that's your single source of truth. You can absolutely do that. And that's how I will probably be coding my FileMaker solutions moving forward. I just end up spending more time coding on this plugin. But yeah, I'm big time proponent of treat all of your information the same way that you do outside of FileMaker, but just move it and keep it inside of FileMaker. Anybody have any questions?
What is it? The $20 a month plan that's good for most agents for all this stuff, or do we have to go to a bigger plan?
It really depends on what you're doing. With the lower things, like you can get. Well, the problem is these guys, the Fable, the Claudes, and the Codexes are so heavily subsidized that really the biggest bang for your buck does start at the $100 plan, and you really only need the $200 if you're doing a lot of different things. I've done the whole plugin on the $100 plan, but I never would have been able to do it on the $20 plan because it's so exponential once you go from 20 to the 100. But if you use this Pi client and go out to other models, especially the open source models, you can get way more. And out of all of these, Claude is the most expensive, even though it's the most popular. But Codex will get you a lot. If you use a GPT model like 5.4 or 5.5, it can, even 5.4 can do FileMaker stuff like nobody's business. You don't need like the latest model. And then at the top, where you actually see this effort high, you can usually set the effort to like medium. So if you use GPT 5.4 on medium, it will get most of your FileMaker stuff, but it will do it at half the cost of whatever the premium models are. And likewise, like Cursor, their own client using Composer is much cheaper as well, because they're competing against these big guys. So they're trying to, compete on price. Whereas the big guys, they're giving you, $5,000 worth of inference when you're only paying for $100 a month.
That's
$200.
So I thought you had them a bunch of them installed except for Gemini.
Huh? Yeah, I do have them all installed. Gemini actually is defunct now. Gemini has become anti-gravity CLI, so I have to change that.
There was about a 12-hour period where you couldn't get Fable 5 before they extended it out to the 12th of July. And living in the future here and being in the middle of the night, I wanted to do some Fable 5 work. So I went and paid $10 extra on it.
Oh.
It went in less than one prompt.
Oh, yeah.
I was asking it to check something, and it started churning and came back and said, sorry, you're out of credit. I said, I just put $10 in, and then I put $20 in, and they just keep disappearing. And I thought, this is not the way it's going to be done. And then got up next day, and it's been extended out to the 12th. But this just paying for credits as you go is on a slot machine. Just keep putting the money in, keep pulling the handle. It's not going to work.
And it'll probably get worse too.
Yeah.
That's really funny because the other day I used that exact same metaphor. I used up my, I was only on Sonnet, and I used up my 5 hour allotment when I was actually in the middle of working on my little SQLite thing. So I put in $5 and I got 4 back and forths out of it. And I was like, well, I'm almost there. So I put in $5 and I got 3 back and forths out of it. And I was like, I'm almost there. I got 3 more hours till I can do it on my.
Oh.
So I put in another $5. I got 2 back and forths out of it, and I said, "Screw it." I went to dinner and waited for the session to reset. But yeah, and then I told someone the next day. I said that was a slot machine.
Yeah,
that's exactly what that was.
Look, when you get to the 5 hour and the dog's sitting there saying, "Come on, we got to go outside. It's been 5 hours. You've been in front of that screen long enough. Go outside and play."
They're on the same team.
I don't. Well, then the 5 hour thing, I think, is depending on how much weight you've been passing back and forth.
Yeah,
it's not 5 hours. It's the effort that was done in that 5 hours.
Yeah, and actually, my first 5 hour session did last almost 5 hours, and then when I waited the 3 hours for it to reset, the next session, I used up 5 hours worth of credits in an hour. I mean, it was the same session. I just waited because I didn't clear context.
Context management is huge. That's how you get reliable results. Once you go past a certain point, like in a 1 million context, I never go past 40% at the most. I never go, and that's being able to manage, being able to do. I've got a nice system that I like with regards to the templates that you use for multi-phase implementations, and then also how you manage handoffs. And there's a couple of good keywords that you can use. Cold start is a really good keyword. If you've got a document that's being used on a multi-phase deployment implementation of something, you want to, in that multi-phase, you want to literally have a line or multiple lines that say you stop between each phase. And at each phase, you then are going to, within the header block, have a section of code that it acts as like the guidelines for what is going to be done. And so it also contains the history of what has been done. And so at the phase stop point, you literally want to type in, I want you to update the implementation doc, and this needs to be cold start ready for the next agent. And so what it does is it takes everything from the session that you worked on, puts it into the document. You then clear the session after you've committed it, whether you're doing your own commits or not. And then you say pick up, and then you just pick up that exact document. And then it just jumps onto the next phase. But if you have an implementation plan that says, I've got 5 phases and I'm going to run it, and it will just try to run through them all, that agent will try to go indefinitely until it becomes so loco crazy or whatever. You literally have to manage your context in a very efficient way so that your window never gets larger or into what Matt Pocock was the first, I think, that said it, the dumb zone, where once you get past a certain point, it's out the window. Plus, depending on how many times you've forked the thought process of what is happening within the context, which is another big downfall. Because the context works best when it's absolutely highly focused. So if you don't learn whatever harness you're using, how to fork the conversation once you start to go off on another tangent, or being able to feed the agent the ability to actually, okay, we came across this like bug or issue. Okay, start that as a separate document, and then don't let it go off onto 2 different paths. You have to finish every path first, and so if something happens in the middle of while you're doing something, you got to sort of like shove it off to the side. Where we as people, we want to just deviate and sort of go off into that other direction, but that muddies the whole of the context window so that the agent doesn't necessarily know now what is it working on. Am I working on this thing or am I working on this thing? How do these two things relate? And remember, it's loading the whole context. So that's how you get an efficient run to get exactly what you want by staying focused.
Even when it stays focused, I, as a human, in an iterative development mindset, just have a hard time. And I guess I've got to learn to trust it. There's a certain point at which I probably could say, okay, summarize everything. Let's get this ready for a cold start. But I have a hard time as a person saying, let's wrap it up and put everything. I think in terms of a long conversation and a long chain of thought. And as a developer, we've all been there. Sometimes that chain of thought is a day or two long, and you're sitting grinding on code, and you just can't do that because the context just gets overloaded, and it's passing the entire history back and forth every time you ask something. And I think that's probably, I know after hearing, you speak, it's a learned skill. I don't have it yet personally. It's something you have to be mindful of.
There's multiple things, like they don't show the reasoning traces like they used to. They used to actually show you what it was actually saying to itself to figure out what to do, which helped you. Now they just basically show you what it actually is going to do. But a lot of the times, a good skill to have is if you see it heading in a direction, like there's a lot of things where I know things about FileMaker that when it's working on the plugin, it starts to go down this path and make some assumptions. I whack the escape key. I immediately whack the escape key, and then I redirect it right at that point. And that degree of correction sometimes even creates better results because it'll use both its own memory, which Claude is doing, and that's predominantly what I doing, which I don't like. That means they are literally saving files in JSON format into a place that most users don't even know about. It's a dot folder, and it's hidden from you, and you don't know it. And as soon as I see it saying that, that's another time where I whack the escape key, and I literally say, I want you to move those insights from memory into this doc file. And then I have a well-structured doc files on a topic-by-topic basis so that everything fits in so that when I want to restart talking about it, I just send the one main topic file. And then it can use all the other items.
How long this is going?
Oh, you can leave it any time.
Yeah, Matt, that's at the end of each session, I ask the agent, what did you learn from this session?
Yeah.
And to find out where it's at. And I actually have a skill creator skill that I use to build the other skills because I use the built-in one from Anthropic and it builds skills that you can't install.
Oh, those stupid compressed ones.
The description's too long. The different functions have got illegal characters in their names. So there's about 5 or 6 things that I started off in the skill creator skill that says, this is everything Anthropic's got, but here are 5 hard no's that you can't put into a skill. But then go and look at what you learnt from this session of building these skills. Right, here is a logic that you, as the skill builder, I need to check my information and my references 3 times. Don't just present back the new data for the skill once. And a lot of the time I have to swap out the name Darren for developer because the skill actually says Darren wants me to check this 3 times before going any further. I go, no, change it to developer. Let's keep it neutral. But this skill creator skill says I need to check my references 3 times before I come back to Darren. Because, I'm like you, Matt. I'm sitting saying, stop. You're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And then I edit the change logs because some of that stuff is when it has gone in the wrong direction. Now, whether that's going to help the next session, that's in the skill builder, not in the skill that I'm going to actually go and publish. So, you got to – this idea of setting up your OpenClaw overnight to go and build your software that you're going to publish automatically – we're not there, It's still
not unless you invest the time in creating your framework.
Yeah,
And the agent will create the framework for you, but the problem that most people have, they won't read it. You have to read what it says it's going, what you had it create, what it's going to do, and then when you get to that one little part where it's going to do the thing you don't want, you have to take it out. And that's what I think a lot of people don't do, is it creates such a wall of text that is just like, and you're like, I got to read all that. Like when I was doing the plugin, the start of the plugin, Matt Pocock has a skill called Grill Me, and I was actually already doing what his skill did before by saying I had I didn't know about the Grill Me, but I said, we need to go through and I want to clarify each and every point with regards to this original thing that I created. I want you to ask me as many questions as possible in order to figure out whether or not we've covered everything. And so that's when it took its training data combined with what I wanted to do and what I outlined. And then some of the questions were things that I hadn't thought about. And then two, I literally sat through one grilling session and went through like 100 questions. And if you've had a test before, having to think about 100 different things literally takes like multiple hours. I think it probably took me like 3 to 4 hours to get through all of the questions, which was actually the foundational knowledge that once it was captured in the format that the agent could work with, that's when it's crazy. And so like right now, if I didn't have all of everything that's built around what created to build the plugin as a structure, it would be very difficult to put any particular feature in. But like when you guys are talking about, oh, hey, can you actually make that just bring up a deep link and jump to that particular point based on this? That's one support bundle that you send in that it understands and could go to all these different index files that I have with all of the systems and how the systems interconnect. And then it'll put it in and it'll be done in an hour. That's what's crazy, is you need the foundation and the infrastructure of what it is that you're building. And that's what's cool about FileMaker, is it already exists in that save as XML. You can already reference all of the logic of the system, and then you can ask, how does this actually impact or interact with these other systems? And literally it can pull up like all these scripts interact this way just right in front of you so quick, because it looks at all of those different points so much faster than you ever could as a human. That's what's awesome. Just, I mean, juice. If I could hold 10,000 things in my head and know how they all interact with all the other things in the rest of this monolithic system, that would be insanely cool. But the AI does it. That's what makes it so awesome. I don't know who was asking for how long this goes, but
I think it was somebody's significant other was.
No, I mean, anybody can go at any time. I can yap for hours.
That was a quick response.
Same thing's happening. Like you have family in the house, so I'm like, "Hey, are you still alive in there?"
Besides, Matt, how do we even know that it was about the presentation? Could have been something else.
Oh no,
I don't know.
No, it wasn't about that. It was about somebody wondering why they were still not going to bed or something.
Fantastic.
I don't even know what time it is. What is it? Time is it? It's like late for you guys. 8 o'clock
it's 8 here.
I don't know. Your background's like afternoon, so it's hard to say.
Almost 1 p.m. in the future, guys. Come on.
Yeah, what is it for Darren? Darren, you're like 1 in the morning.
No, 1 p.m.
No, 1 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
You're plus
It's
14.
prime time.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, sun hasn't set here.
I do have to say that I've been working with Matt on for what he's doing with the plugin, and there's times I'll come in at my 10 p.m. and he's there, or I'll go in at my 8 a.m. and then he's there, and I'm thinking, when is this man sleeping?
I do stay up late my time.
Well, you heard what I said a few minutes ago. You get on a development grind, and it could be a day or two. You look up and you're like, "Oops, forgot to eat dinner
Right.
and breakfast."
Yeah. When I first shot my very first, when I had switched and I was like, I don't want to write FileMaker scripts anymore. This is crazy. It'll write all this Python code. Why am I doing this stuff in FileMaker? It's so slow. When that first hit me, I was like trying to figure out what I was going to do, and I kept waiting for Claris and waiting for them to do something, and that's when I was like, okay, forget it. I'm just going to solve this and use whatever I have available, and just started whacking on the plugin. And literally since February, probably every day has been almost like 8-hour days of just putting in and trying to get the features and getting them work and getting to sync together, and then getting support bundles from like Darren, and there's a handful of other people that we're just sending them and just trying to get it to work. And so even now I'm just hopeful that there's enough people that want to buy it to make it worthwhile. I know at least my actual cost will be covered, but not my time costs. Unless
we've been like kids in candy stores too. It's like, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? Yeah. Put in the support bundle. Put it in.
Yeah.
So how many? I remember the first time. Gosh, it was a conversation back on Sluggers. I think that because somebody had developed a plugin. It's like everybody had been used to copying and pasting XML or something like that, and they were.
Oh,
and then somebody questioned, was it? Why did you make it a plugin? Yes, I don't know if should be any question at this point.
well, there used to be a app that you had to use it was the go-between for a while.
Yeah, I didn't want to do that. I want it to just do its thing. The only problem that it has is that you are tied to however slow the model responds before it gets back. And that's where it would be very interesting if Claris solves this, where the model could just hand back the whole thing and it just shows up, but it doesn't interrupt the environment. Because that's my problem, is I have to go through the environment in order to actually make it happen. It's not a direct path. Only Claris can create the direct path in, where you could literally spawn off, say, 3 different conversations in 3 different areas of your FileMaker solution, and then only when they're actually completed, they just then appear in like the script workspace. They don't have to like go use accessibility, find the row, oh, I want to do an insert, oh, I'm going to go to this row, and all that stuff, which is a lot of back and forth. So yeah, somebody posted in the comments, GUI scripting is fragile. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. You could theoretically fire up a whole lot of Docker with FileMaker Pro, with the plugins, and talk to it, and then go back to your own machine and do what you want and say when it's finished. I know.
Well, that's what I do with the plugin. I'm dying to put it on a separate machine, because if you have a FileMaker solution on a separate machine and you're just looking at it with screen share, and you can prompt to it remote through your agent, oh, it just then goes and does it, and who cares? You're doing your work on your machine, and then your client project is on your Mac Mini sitting over there, and you're like, update this script. And then you can even put a notification like, tell me when you're done, and it just does its thing and then just gets back to you.
Stephen, you'll appreciate this. When you do this and take your hands off the keyboard, that is not an invitation for the cat to run over your keyboard.
A little you know.
Man.
Michael, you muted. Michael.
It's okay. I spent all day sitting and talking to myself anyway. I feel like, we're really waiting at this point. We're really just kind of in this twilight zone. We're waiting because to really be robust, they're going to talk about GUI scripting being fragile. They're going to have to provide access to the relationship graph. They're going to have to provide access to things like layout parts and tab orders to really go whole hog and really vibe code FileMaker apps. Those are still Those are still
But I think they're months. I mean, months and months away, unless they had an engineering team with enough tokens and compute with the orchestration that would be required. I mean, I don't even know what the state of their dev environment is, but what I've heard is the number of databases that they have to run FileMaker through with their with their pre-agentic regression testing is huge.
Yeah.
Choked.
There was I can't remember who, somebody had a plugin thing that would take in layout parts and stuff like that, build XML to actually paste into your layout based on description and stuff like that. I can't remember which plugin that was, but there was one in those agentic repositories.
Yeah, Andy's got one where he's doing artwork at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So you can tell it to do a piece of artwork, and it will go and add all the elements to a native FileMaker layout as a piece of art.
Charles knows if I think I don't know what his name is. Genie's he's manipulating the layouts, but I don't know to what extent.
Bruno's here in the room.
He's on the call, yeah.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Yeah, he would know. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing on the layouts for layout manipulation?
I can generate them or I can modify them. So basically, what I do is, if you have a layout, you copy it into your clipboard for layouts. It's clipboard only because it's the only way I manage to kind of gather it.
Yeah.
You copy it and you bring it into the assistant, and I convert it into an abstract tree syntax, which is like a JSON, and then the AI is able to work with that. The CSS is only CSS, so I kind of don't bother about it, and I don't ask the LLM to generate it because it gets too heavy. So the LLM is just generating a bunch of JSON, and then I convert it back to XML within the compiler, and then you can paste it back into FileMaker directly. So you can use, I have an MCP in my plugin, so you can use like Claude or Cursor or Codex or whatever to just send a screenshot and ask it to generate a layout. It's going to create kind of just the format of what it looks like, apply it a bunch of CSS. The plugin is going to compile it back to XML, and you can paste it into your solution. That's what I do.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's similar to what I'm doing. So, like, I literally have a 2 megabyte layout. And so I took that 2 megabyte layout, I push it into my clipboard space, which is where I have a reserved memory. There's the public ones that you see, but then there's a private one that's just for the agent to actually work with. I then create an index of all key factors of that particular layout, which would be the fields that are on it, the scripts that are tied to it, etc. That's handed to the agent in order to manipulate. It then passes back a patch model, and it directly patches that whole 2 megabyte layout so that doesn't go back and forth between the agent. And so it's your tooling that you create that instructs the agent how to use whatever method you're using to modify what's large that you don't want to pass back and forth. And that's just up to, however we've coded the environments differently in terms of how we wanted to handle those situations.
But if you wanted to apply like from square corners to rounded corners, could you apply that when you paste it?
Well, because square to round is managed by the CSS, that's a different aspect of you've got two different factors. You've got if you've got a whole layout, you've got the entities themselves that can be swapped in or out, but then you've got the visual representation, and the visual representation is two different parts. And FileMaker won't actually render unless the full CSS is there, and then the local CSS will act as an override onto anything that the full CSS has. So you literally have to pull out the, if you want to use the styling, you have to preserve and save the CSS and then do an adaptation from that. So one of the things that I just put in, which was, there's one limitation that I have because I put in the ability, in my plugin it's called layout synthesizing. So it can synthesize a whole layout, and it can use the HTML as a reference, which that's text, but then you can also use an image as reference. So like Claude has really good vision, but then you'll get a model like I think Cursor's Composer is from Kimi, and I don't that might have vision. I don't know. It depends on whether vision was built in. But the model will literally use vision to look at the image and actually do pixel countovers in order to actually find the positioning of things and then swap those values into the left, top, right, and etc. directly within the XML. And that's part of the index of what it will actually do. It will look at the visual, which is pretty cool because eventually you'll be able to tell your agent, I want you to go use Claude Design or go use Gemini's layout design. Take a screenshot of my current layout, go adapt it and modernize it. It will modernize it, create an image or an HTML reference, and then come back, and then you should be able to create a FileMaker layout from that. That's why I don't think they should go for this whole hog, web stuff, because there's still viability within the FileMaker layout, and if they leaned into it and made more widgets, components, whatever you want to call it, they could make FileMaker's layout mode really nice. I don't know that they'd get to the same level of what event model you have in HTML, but they could absolutely compete, especially if they threw some dollars at the tokens in order to overhaul it. I have no qualms. I have no question about that.
But you know what? People love Notion, which is a vastly inferior product because it has those little, and it doesn't have anything like HTML, but it's got enough. And all FileMaker needs is that level. Somebody in Notion wants to have a little radiometer kind of dial. They drag it on. It's easy. FileMaker, you got to go through the whole add-ons thing, and it's or program it yourself in a web viewer.
Yeah.
There's a lot of little bells and whistles that we could have that would make a big difference.
Well, we're in a race. Yeah. Claris is in a race. Quite literally. I bet you anything they're in a race. It's too easy to go outside now. And that's why the edge that they had, which was layout mode, got supplanted now, and so they have to make a choice about what they're going to do with it.
Our rapid application development was a great niche for a couple decades, but yeah, now we're on the chopping block.
Now it's very much, how do you preserve everybody who's invested heavily, because that's what time is going to eat away. Mm-hmm. People are at all the meetings are like, well, do we just keep FileMaker because my the CTO's nephew just knocked out something we needed, and it works. So
I think I'm going to speak up for the FileMaker layout mode. I think that the simplicity is still good. I have done web coding, and I'm aware of what you can do with web coding. And I said it before, I'll say it again. I think, sometimes FileMaker native layouts. I do think that when I hear the word AI, it's mostly a marketing term, and I just remap it to the code gen. And so it seems that we have people, code generating scripts. That is easier than layouts. And so getting back to layouts, the FileMaker native layouts, you could say that the disadvantage that they have is they don't lend themselves easily to the code generation workflows. They don't have these large libraries of text-based structures, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And this is actually a question for Matt or Bruno. Matt, this is a question from earlier today. I think the challenge in FileMaker layout design using the classic structures, it's generating a code object, whether it's a button or, maybe a group of fields pre-attached to styles based on the underlying UUID, and positioning them. Yes, you can code gen things, you can paste them, and you can adjust them manually, and that's great. The gold standard would be co-generate structures and have them land on a predictable location in proximity to a pre-existing object or at a predefined coordinate based on your standards. So open question, and maybe if people from Claris are listening to this, the ability to paste in a location as per the XML coordinates that are in the XML. They're in there. They say, this is the location. They just don't do that. That would be something worthy of effort, in my opinion. And it's being recorded, so that's an official feature request.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, FileMaker's legacy and history is the thing that's holding it back, I think. And I don't know, I wouldn't know what type of decision I'd make in that regard. The backwards compatibility is like what has kept people in it, because it just keeps working and it's solid and it's good, but all that backwards compatibility comes with baggage, and that baggage prevents them from being able to necessarily do some of the things that they would need to do, because it would break things. Like for me, I would change the layout surface, where the layout surface underneath becomes more complex, but it wouldn't necessarily use like XML because it's less efficient. It would use a different language, and it would be highly extensible. Where if you think about it, when FileMaker was coded, it was coded with these limited set of metaphors of what you interacted with, and it's probably been so painful for them to add on to those, and those things are so old, crusty, and baked in that they're not really very flexible the way that they surface. I mean, I'd really like to talk to Andrew Paulson, the guy who implemented the CSS on the layout objects, and be like, okay, how difficult was it for you to integrate the CSS spec, and then once you put that in, would have been easy for you to just add in new objects really quickly and easily? That's the only thing I don't know. Because if it is pretty easy for them to add in new UI objects, and they just haven't done it because they're spending time on Studio and Connect and all of these other things, they abandoned their engineering more or less on the foundation that actually keeps them going. And if that's the case, that was just poor decisions.
Well, imagine if they open it up so anybody could add objects.
Yeah, I mean, if they had made a lot of things pluggable, like if the web viewer was pluggable where you could upgrade that. I mean, I can't count the number of years that I went where there were websites I was not able to use because the WebKit that they have embedded would not render because those websites advanced with HTML, CSS, and Claris just wouldn't update the web viewer. I mean, it literally just screwed a lot of people over. The website just wouldn't work in FileMaker anymore because the web viewer was not pluggable. But I don't know. What are you going to do? I'd be begging Apple for money and say, okay, we want to revamp this whole thing and keep all these customers that are using this product.
Yeah.
But,
and they should have a lightweight version of FileMaker that Apple gives away free with every copy of macOS.
Oh, the whole
we bugged them
free
about
thing,
that
they messed that up years ago.
No.
That's been almost a decade of ask.
Really? I'm not surprised.
Thin client or, a free client for newbies.
Yeah. Well, yeah, just to make it just like so you could send your file to somebody, like if it was Excel or something like that. Yeah. You wouldn't have to export everything out to Excel to give somebody your data. You could just here's a FileMaker file.
Yeah.
You could download the free viewer at the very least, and
just to
make it more ubiquitous so people know it exists.
Exactly.
Right?
Just get a taste of FileMaker into more people's hands.
Yeah.
Well, they have an opportunity that my guess is they've got a difficulty right now, because in the agentic world, the thing that absolutely took off was Obsidian. Obsidian was just everywhere because the natural output or the default output of most LLMs was Markdown. I mean, it could have been HTML, it could have been anything, but they specify use Markdown as output. There's a really good GitHub thing look for system prompt leaked or leaked system prompt on GitHub, and it will actually show all of the different system prompts that all of the major harnesses use and output, and they specify use Markdown as your output. But a graphics card will spit out whatever you tell it to spit out based on, the vectors that it's using. Dude, if FileMaker was free, open and available for people to use with the tool set that it has, it could have been like an Obsidian. But your barrier to entry is, okay, give us $600. Because the formerly $100, which is now $200, is nowhere to be seen, and they'll never want to promote it because they want to get that $600. Yep. It's just like the Razor. If you give them the taste and you gave them the free copy and the free copy didn't connect to server, but people could still run their local databases they created in the 90s, they would have retained the loyalty that actually would have promoted the product. But you've got people that oh, you kicked me out of my own solution and I have to pay an arm and a leg just in order to access my own data? Forget it. I'm not suggesting you. Loyalty factor gone.
I always say that Claris has a lot of Apple's DNA. That sort of, we'll tell you what you want and you'll like it. But what they don't
want a CD player anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But they don't have the reality distortion fields. They don't have the mojo to make that actually work. They have the same attitude, but somehow it doesn't quite click when they do it.
Yeah, actually, because last year Ryan McCann showed up, and some of the things you guys brought, I won't divulge everything that was said there, but yes, we had these conversations, and they're open and honest about what happened. I mean, I wasn't offended because I asked that question. It's like, well, what happened to that freemium version that I told people to sign up for? And I guess they decided that it was they would have lost money, or what they calculated, because I guess they still had paying customers out there who were standalones.
Yeah.
Well,
I was going to shoot a video about if I was the CEO, and there's so many just drastic changes I would make, but without knowing the financials, I think basically cutting off all of the people that were using the what was the feature called where you bundle it with your thing? It would
create a standalone software, right?
Runtime.
Yeah, the runtime. I think that was a mistake too.
Yeah.
I mean, they think we're losing money to these people who are making this money. No, that was actually another destruction to the loyalty factor, because you basically took other people's businesses away. You could have found a way to allow that to continue to exist and still monetize in other ways. But instead it's just nope, we're just chopping the head off of that.
Yeah, because I'm trying to market the software as application development, cross-platform application development system, right? And not just a database, because we've already got databases where we're at. They don't need another one. So if I can sell it as an application development system, that would be great. But it's missing these things that you say, well, it's not completely cross-platform because it doesn't do Android, and then some of the other
things we
discussed.
It is a database. It's a database with a bunch of app development stuff.
Yeah.
In some cases, very well added to it, but it's a database,
It's a development platform that has multiple components. It does have a database. It's also got the scripting. It's got all-in-one shopping.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to people who say that, I say write an image editor in it.
Mm.
Did we have someone who did that? The Weet-Bix guy has a SVG editor.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not Objective-C. It's not Swift. It's how many 30 years and counting? They're not doing too bad. They could do better. And maybe we should have a meeting about our. The title would be, as Matt said, what I would do if I ran FileMaker. I think you'd have to keep people to kind of short TED Talk clips.
Oh, yeah, you could do
with
it.
A positive spin.
They've got the same hair.
Listen, would you guys mind if I share my screen for just a second? I want to show you something.
I'm going to call it a day because this one wants to go outside. So it's that time. So
it's got a shirt on.
Yeah, he has. It's middle of winter. So yeah, it's got a little.
Good to see you, Darren.
That's cool.
And thanks for the
Thank you, Darren.
contributions.
Yep.
Yes.
Talk to you all later.
Yep. See you next time. Anyway, this graph, just show Claris management this graph and ask them to explain it.
What is that?
This is a chart by Google.
This is the trends chart of searches for FileMaker Pro since 2004. I mean, you know, if they're going to argue that, oh, we're losing money, well, what is this then? You know.
In fairness, that's really skewed data because you're not including the fact that how many other software companies are present now since 2004.
Yeah.
So you can't look at that with any kind of insight.
No, I was going to say that doesn't account the increase in web traffic across all other keywords.
Yeah, you have to normalize that to get anything out of that.
That's when you add Notion in.
Yeah, well,
there is market share out there that we're not getting.
Well, okay.
Anyway.
I'm gonna go search for FileMaker a couple times. I'm gonna search for FileMaker twice and Notion once.
If you're gonna infer that without normalizing any data, you could say that Notion is just getting to where FileMaker was in 2004.
And I'm going to say something.
And that's with all of the other software companies in the world. So
yeah, I
could argue it in totally bad data there as well. But nonetheless, FileMaker
is in the decline.
I mean, yeah.
There is hard data that you can look at.
Maybe we should stop the recording. And before we do, let me just say FileMaker is the greatest platform, and it's up to us. We have a number of projects that are, coming along quite nicely where we're just working the platform. Projects we picked up from elsewhere that aren't utilizing the full, amazing capacity of the FileMaker platform. I'm going to keep on going unless we stop the recording.
All right,
so
ready?
Tony White think that FileMaker is a great platform.
Is that the vote? We're stopping the recording?
The excitement has to be rekindled, but in order to rekindle the excitement, some hard decisions would have to be made.
I think we need better sample files out there. By the way, this is, you don't have to wait for the what would I do if I ran FileMaker. I think there's a dearth. I did look the other day at what's on Claris Marketplace, and I was looking for some specific things that you would think might be there. And here's a list, just a selected list of a few things. Is there a Quicken replacement? No, there is not a simple FileMaker file to manage your checkbook. Why not? I have no idea. What else is not there? Something to track your computer assets, something that IT manager at a company might use for their personal use and thereby promulgate FileMaker as an influencer within their community. So there's a dearth of sample files. And I don't know, I think we could blame Claris for that, or blame the community. Don't blame me.
Is there a help system out there, Tony?
Thank you very much. I will be presenting on how to build a help system. This will be my third presentation for the Richard Carlton TV show. I forget what it's called. I'll drop a link there. And actually, I predict it'll be a pretty good presentation. I've been working on it for hours and hours. And there's another point. Yes, why is there not a help system on Claris Marketplace? Shocking. I know. Oh, by the way, Rich Kalman is presenting. I'm reading it. I'll drop a link. Open conversations with Rick Kalman. Yeah. Anyway, that's tomorrow. And thank you.
Well, I guess that does it for announcements, and I can stop the recording, right?
Yeah, and we can talk about what we really feel.